Okay, we seem to have a visual feed straight away this time, which is always a lovely, lovely surprise when my stream's technical stuff actually works. Um, yes, we'll get stuck into it. I'll try and remember what I was up to last time. So I think we were here to we're trying to convince Maria to let Peter leave. So I believe the objective for now. And this is deceptively difficult, actually. If I remember correctly, there's a couple of trick answers that you can sort of give to Maria,
Did you see
um,
anything
which
weird on your way
which
here?
sort of a lot of people will sort of pick the most obvious sort of blunt options the first time through, which is what I certainly did, and I always failed this quest. But what you're supposed to do is pick some of the craftier answers, and if I fail to pick the crafty answers, I've got to
No.
save. So it would be nice to see this side quest through to
No,
the
you
end.
replace Simon.
You're giving me a stony stare. Is anything wrong? Are you disappointed? Tell me, Maria, do you have any influence on Peter Stomartin? He has a greater influence on me. Why do you ask? Why? Your questions are very indiscreet. You've only known me for one day in Denil. I've known you for a little longer. Your curiosity will be sated in a little while. Allow me to torture you with obscurity for now. On the other hand, it's very simple. He's a genius. Really, he must be constantly exposed to vicious hatred. Why? For the structure on the other side of the river. People never hate geniuses more passionately than they crave them. Some would kill Peter. The rest are probably quietly suffering seeing him sink his talent in Twire vodka. And who would, say, want to kill Peter? You know, Saburov hates Peter. He wants to get back at him for something. I must protect him. If only Saburov seizes the power he is so hopelessly trying to obtain, Peter will be the first to stand at the bone stake. And the bone stake's where we saw the other woman get burned on the first day. Curious. You know, this gave me an interesting idea because the last thing I wanted for him is to die. So basically, we can't bring up to her that Peter wants to leave town because she's not going to let that happen. But basically, in a roundabout sort of way, we just got her permission to let him go because some people obviously want to see him dead, and for Peter, that'll probably be a good enough reason to leave. Okay, and yeah, we're just gonna try and make it. So this stream potentially could be a long one. Or a longer one than I'm used to. We'll see how the momentum goes, but it would be cool to keep it going and maybe get through all of day three because we've sort of so far awkwardly sort of stopped right at the end of day two because it's 5:30 on day two. So we're not going to see much of day two today because we saw most of it last time, but we should be able to finish it easily today, and then we'll see how day three goes. That'll be the big thing really. But yeah, there's a little bit of geometry there that I always you can get stuck on. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly how that was left in, but it has. If you're not careful, you sort of get stuck. So you don't want to go there when you're fighting in the middle of fighting someone. Let me tell you that ends poorly for you. Speaking of, how much health do I have? I have another bandage. Oh, should I? No, actually, since it's almost the end of the day, I think I'll take some morphine and sleep it off instead. I say casually, just take some morphine, sleep it off. Okay, so right now we're heading back to Peter, and we just want to tell him, look, there's people that they don't like your guts, so we're gonna get you out of here. Okay, presents, Uncle Bachelor. Do you want to trade presents? Sorry, kid, you don't have what I'm after. Okay, just continuing on, collecting bottles upon bottles. I'm sure you'd be able to make a lot of art sculptures out of all the junk Bachelor fishes out of the barrels here. What's in your pockets? A lockpick. No. Lockpick's worth 5. And I don't really want to trade anything other than smouters with the little children. Smouters are what I'm after. Hey, how you doing? Good to have you here. I can actually see your messages this time. That's what I like to see. No, nothing from him. What do you have to trade? Oop. Fill these water bottles up, I suppose. And now, do I remember the right key? Yes, I do. So that's something we're going to talk about on day 3. But the Bachelor's unique mechanic in this game is his. Yes, and there was much rejoicing indeed. Yeah, it's always nice when my streams don't have any technical difficulties. I swear, each one of my streams has had a technical issue of some kind. I was really hoping with my Silent Hill stream yesterday that it was over, but lo and behold, there you were leaving messages and I couldn't see anything. So, but at least now I know it is working today, so that's good. Get a bandage from him. Okay. Wait, how much? I'm pretty exhausted and I'm pretty hungry. I'll eat my vegetables. Okay. So Peter, I think Peter will be just generally, well, maybe not pleased, but he'll accept our reasoning, I think. It's been a while since I bothered to play this quest through to its completion, so hopefully I'm remembering the events correctly. I do, yeah. I think I said this last time as well, but it's a really nice space. I always found it a really eerie space, and you sort of get this jump scare the first time you play it as you sort of come around the corner and sort of confronted by this sculpture, and sort of some doors that don't open and that sort of thing. Can only assume that's, I don't know, to his bedroom or to the roof or something.
Truth is foundation and the reason of the perfection of beauty, old boy.
I can't shrug away the feeling that someone's scratching at the windowsill. Haven't changed your mind, have you? No. I have news for you. This evening, Alexander Saburov will become the governor. Olginsky and Kane are going to vest him nearly unrestricted powers to curb the epidemic that your brother and you refuse to believe in. Bloody hell. Are you sure about this? I am. What of Georgi? What does the judge say? Bloody hell. So Saburov will be the judge now too. Definitely. That's it, I'm a dead man. As luck would have it, it happens exactly when I'm about to create a truly glorious masterpiece. Fine, let us go. So I'm telling Andre you've agreed. I love the tub in the middle. Yeah, it's such a good it's just such a good centerpiece for the room. It really brings the whole thing together. But I think it's also I mentioned this in my Peter Stomartin analysis video that the tub is sort of imagine what with all the bottles as well. That he does a lot of drinking, just sort of sitting in the tub. It's a very sort of stereotypical, like, big drunken thing to do, just sit in the tub and just sort of binge drink. And I think that's partially what it's meant to evoke, that sort of idea. But it really is a nice centerpiece. Okay, so now we got to run back to the bar and tell Andre that his brother is agreeing to leave. And then I think we'll catch a nap for a little while. We'll see. I do, yeah. The sound design is something that sort of ties the whole game together. And I mean, in horror games and games of this nature, the sound design is really important. But like, it's just the little things. Like, you can hear you might not be able to hear. I hope you can, but you might not be able to. But you can sort of hear the river sort of bubbling a bit as you walk by it and that sort of thing. And it's those nice little touches that sort of get you in a state sort of more immersed and more susceptible to the twists and turns of the story. Okay, here we are back in the Broken Heart Bar. All the lizards on the wall.
I've had my share of dancing. The curtain falls.
The curtain falls indeed. Sit, take a load off your feet. Your brother has agreed. Or don't let the door hit our asses on the way then. There are plenty more shitholes in the world. I might need a gun though. Do you have a weapon? I could use more. Right, let's do the preparations separately then. Here's some money. The black market around here is run by a mongrel calling himself Bad Grief. Have you met the rodent already? No, I didn't have time for it. He resides at the northern warehouses. And so? You can always find human killing stuff at Grief's. Now then, he'll obviously try to rob you as best he can, but you only need to say Andre is off to the kennel to him, and he'll change the tune immediately. He may even give you something for free. Whoa, what does that phrase mean? An old business of ours. It means that he forgot who I was while I was busy drinking in this den. Alright, then what? Then you come back. Meanwhile, I'll try to think of a way to get on Gugong's good side. Who's Gugong? One of the locals, a deaf and dumb train driver. Not quite human. Made of soil and bones, glued together with sticky blood and inspired with thick twirine, just like all his step-brethren. I'd break his neck, but the engine wouldn't go anywhere without him. Don't you frown, I'll deal with him. That's fortunate. He's got such a way with words, doesn't he, Andre? You can tell he really cares about this town too. You know, such a deep attachment to the town. But it is very clear from his dialogue that really about the only person he has a significant attachment to is indeed his brother. He wouldn't leave town without his brother, and it's the whole twin. There's a lot of sort of twin symbolism and that sort of thing in the town, or at least in the story, because you've got these two things that are pulling at each other, which is sort of the twin symbolism of basically the future and the past, and then Georgie and Simon, that same twin symbolism, and Nina and Victoria, that same twin symbolism. So yeah, duality is one of the biggest themes that you're going to get out of both Pathologic games. It's very pronounced, and I guess especially so in the second one, because you have those multiple layers of reality. You've got the layer of the town, like the sort of everyone who thinks it's real. You've got the performative layer, and then playing off of that, those two, which are a bit more interlinked, you've got yourself, your own layer, the sort of metagamey layer, where you realize that you are playing a video game. You're neither in a play nor are you actually in the town. You are playing a video game, but both games do their best to sort of eradicate that idea from you. They try and immerse you as much as you can, erode that suspension of disbelief, and that's what sort of lures you in for the sucker punch, basically, when the horror happens, that sort of thing. Nothing from you. And this is Bad Grief's one. You can tell because he just dumps garbage in this bin outside and sets it on fire all the time. It's a very subtle symbol, of where all of these gang members are hiding out. And you can see, these guys, the same evil ones. Yes, the number 3 is very prominent as well. I remember it being a recurring theme of the Horror Spectres run, and 2 especially. Definitely. I guess, 2 and 3, so there's duality, and then there's the 3 protagonists as well. So I guess, Changeling is sort of in the middle, I suppose you'd say. She's sort of holding both of these together. But of course, in order to hold these together, there has to be some measure of sacrifice. But indeed, they're very clever with recurring themes and symbolism, and just sort of everything sort of feeding into each other to create a story that's sort of very meaningful in a way many games sort of fail to be. And this is another... I'm going to go on about this, aren't I? This is another really well-designed interior. I'm very happy with this one. And unlike in the second one, Grief isn't sitting on his throne. He's just sort of standing off to the side. And I assume it's because they didn't want you platforming your way up to him every time. But
They're carving up the town. It's clear who's going to bag the prize. The Cons aren't getting back enough feet anytime soon. And Glad keeps mum. Got a finger in the pie, that's for sure.
the number 3 as well. I'm just trying to remember. Did they have... Was it 3 categories in the second one for people? It was nerves, bones, and blood as well. You could sort of neatly divide the town up into basically 3 categories, and of course the town itself is divided up into 3 sections by the river. Yeah, that's a very good observation. The 3 as well. I agree. Welcome, dear guest. Give the man something to drink. Let him grab a bite. Sit him down comfortably. Show our big city guests some respect. And don't let him out until I say otherwise. Where am I? You can say. Can't say I care for your mugs. We earn a quick buck to be loved by every schmuck. Care not for our mugs, but rather for your soul, kind sir. Too much self-assurance can be fatal. Ain't you afraid? I'm not afraid of death. Since we've just met, Doc, you go in peace for the first and the last time. But next time your exit will cost extra. Next time it will be you begging me to come.
What is to be, will be.
Dear men bring dire omens that will cost us dearly, dear Doc. I quite like the way they made Bad Grief speak in this game. He's very lyrical, very whimsical. I didn't get so much of that out of Pathologic 2 from his speech, but again, they rejigged his character a lot in Pathologic 2, from sort of this very scungy, like, is this very scungy character who runs like what seems to be an actually cutthroat business, into a business more centered around, yeah, still illicit, but not as bad. But I guess that is also because in the second game it's rejigged so that Bad Grief was Artemis' close friend in childhood, and there's that connection. So you've sort of already breached a wall, whereas the Bachelor's just met him, so he could be just putting on a front and that sort of thing. And that's what you've always got to be thinking about in these games: is these characters could just be lying to you about their real personalities. They're acting tough, or they're acting afraid, or that sort of thing. But in reality, they sort of have their own agendas behind their words, and you've always got to be thinking about that, which is so cool. I need a weapon. Everyone needs a weapon. Got $1 million? We'd even get you something that shoots for $1 million. There ought to be a gun somewhere around here, eh? Just one, pretty please, but everything has its price. $1 million? That price tag befits an artillery mortar, mate. Oh no, my lovely man. The mortar is a gift, it is. You can't go shooting them robbers in a dark alley with a mortar. A Barker, on the other hand. It would probably cost you even more dearly, dear Doc. Andre is off to the kennel, Grief. That changes things. Take this one for free, but it ain't be doing much shooting for too long. It'll suit me fine. And with that smooth dealership, we have 3 revolvers and a lot of bullets. And I consider that a win. So now we head back to Andre. I believe that's what it wants me to do, isn't it? Yes, return to Andre. Okay. Though, yeah, I'm not as much of a fan of the warehouse district in this one. In the second one, it felt they did manage to do a much better job of making the warehouses and the industrial sector tie a bit nicer together. But this one is just feels a bit of a hodgepodge, really, of because you can't. I guess you can't enter any of the other ones in the second one either. But okay. It's impressive. I assume you're referring to the wheeling and dealing? Yes, I agree. I'm happy with that. References to Christianity in both games as well. I vaguely remember that being a more subtle theme, but I can't remember any times I saw it. I actually wonder if it's related to the themes of a Trinity. That's interesting. I guess the Christianity themes, they come forwards a bit more, right? When we're looking at Changeling, because she's sort of explicitly this Messiah character, and I guess I'd agree with you that those themes do exist in the game. They're not, as you say, they're not super prominent. If you were to play Changeling's campaign, you'd certainly pluck some threads out of there. But I guess in each way, there's sort of death and resurrection are very Christian ideas as well, and that's what the polyhedron is all about, and that sort of thing. That's very interesting. I think I'll have to do some more thinking on that, and expand on that a bit. I hate the warehouse district once plague hits. Yes, so do I. It's the worst. It's probably the worst district to navigate if you have to see Bad Grief when it's plague time. It's just not a good time because there's plague clouds just everywhere. Miserable, absolutely miserable. I agree. Where am I going? Bar. Yeah, it's really got me thinking about Pathologic 2 and in particular about the themes of Trinity, but I haven't properly played through Pathologic 2 in a while now, so I can't pick any big examples off the top of my head either. Sit, take a load off your feet. All set, we're armed. Okay, let's meet by the station at 10 p.m. Don't get too close to the engine, though. I won't. No problem. Okay. It is done. The only way out of town is to sneak through the quarantine. If we can make it to the railway station, we can escape. The meeting is set to happen at 10. Okay. Alright, what we want to do now is sleep, right? Because what's the time? 7. So if we just sleep for a couple of hours, we'll go into Anna's house and have a sleep there. What about... I don't have any clothes that need mending, do I? No. Don't know who I'm talking to. Okay. So we'll get this sleep done and we'll see this quest through, and then we'll finish day 2, which would be nice. 2 hours. And that should give me enough time to wander over. Just get my knife out, because it may be robber time. I can't remember what time exactly they spawn, but we might have some friends to deal with. And there was a point that I'm hoping to test tomorrow on, who was it on my YouTube channel? Ultimate Corgi, I think the username was, and they suggested that the lantern, because the last time I suggested that the lantern is basically useless because it's only used to light up areas, but you don't really need to light up any areas because none of them are dark enough in this game. But they suggested that maybe it was a way to dispel plague clouds like it is in the second game. And that's an interesting possibility. I hadn't considered that before, so we're gonna test it out tomorrow, and sort of prove or disprove that theory. It would be nice if it was proven, actually, because it would turn the lantern from an absolutely useless item in this game to one with actually some practical purpose. Okay, make my way back through the lovely warehouse district again. And you sort of, all the, I think you'll notice as well that all the kids are off the streets at this time. It's just the adults that remain on the streets at night, which is just a cool little shift in the demographic that's sort of out and about at this time. All the kids sort of head back to their homes or into their little burrows. Yeah, I'm wondering. I certainly hadn't heard of it in Pathologic 1 before Pathologic 2 came out. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe there was just something in Pathologic 1 that wasn't even mentioned, because Pathologic 1 doesn't tutorialize anything particularly explicitly, unlike Pathologic 2 does, because you've got that whole sort of dream sequence at the start, which tutorializes all the game elements for you. But this one doesn't really have that. You just thrown in the deep end, basically. You're basically expected to have your physical manual on hand when this game was released, which is a novelty I still quite enjoy. My little physical manuals. And the physical manual for this game, actually, I don't know if any of you have had a go at looking it up online or anything, but it is quite cool. But I'll talk about it in soon. Just recently learned that the plague angels won't hit you when you stand still, so I still have so much to learn. Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean when you stand still? And here we have this area. You sort of this dawning sense of like, oh, the cards really are stacked against me here. There's a bunch of patrolmen and an executor who's the face of the developers, and it's just going to be bad news. You know it. The developer's saying you can't worm your way out of this so easily. Bachelor Dankovsky, sir, I'm under the orders to stop you by any and all means necessary. No one is allowed to leave the town. This is the order of the emergency plenipotentiary. You moron. The emergency plenipotentiary is me. Make way. Oh. And you see, immediately, they're going to attack me. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I hadn't heard of that before. Oh, they got me. I was hoping I could beat them. I'm not good enough. Where did that put me back to? Here, that's fine. We know what happens in the quest anyway. So basically, we know that it ends. It ends in failure. And yeah, Pathologic, the developers, is just sort of sitting down in front of you and just saying, "Yeah, it's not happening. You're not leaving. We haven't, you know, we're not going to code in this whole alternate sort of you escape to the capital and you live happily while the town dies or that sort of thing. That doesn't happen. You don't get your happy ending that easily. Got to work for it. Okay. What was I saying? The game manual. Because this game is framed basically as like an epidemic simulation, and that's nowhere is that made more explicit than in the original game manual, which sort of I think basically up front says this is a, a simulation meant to challenge you in the face of an epidemic. You know, how would you act in this sort of in the situation of a deadly disease? And I find that interesting because a lot of the there are some simulational aspects, but it's hard to call this a simulation game. I guess I think I mentioned this in the first stream that these games aren't particularly hmm the words just trying to thought. Yeah, these games aren't exactly simulations because there's a lot of dreaminess to them. There's the combat. It's not realistic. Sports fighting. It's not anything else. But you are still simulating these sort of epidemic elements. But it's whether or not this was the full. Like I don't think this was everything they wanted to simulate. I think they wanted to sort of more realistically get the rate of the disease transmitting more realistically and that sort of thing. But obviously that didn't go through, and part of me is a bit sad about that. But another part of me that actually has to play this game, is a bit grateful because if the disease transferred, yes, magical realism is the name. Yes, that is indeed that was the word. Those were the words I was looking for. It's all about magical realism. Thanks for that. Um, but like reading through the manual now is sort of a window into the development process and their ideas behind the game as an explicit test of morality in a situation like this, which is indeed what the game is all about. Well, not all about, but a large part of it centers around. Oh, come on. Centers around the morality and the way that you're tested. And speaking of that, I probably should actually deliver the food to Lara. Otherwise, I'm going to look like a real dick on stream. I think. Oh, there we go. Can't forget to do that. It's almost time out. Okay. I didn't eat any of it, did I? No, I just ate the vegetables. That's good. Okay. So this is a real morality test. This quest. It's sort of all about. It's one of the very early lessons in pitting your survival against your failure. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to give away 3 bread, 3 smoked meat, and 3 dried fish. But we're still gonna have 11,000 coins. I'm gonna feel pretty okay about that. Pretty secure from a continuing the stream perspective. I've obtained the rations, but there are very odd orderlies standing by the house you've directed me at. They're using theatrical masks and costumes as disease protection, as far as I understood. Yes, I know, the house of the living will have to be relocated there. Remember that you're always welcome at the shelter. We'll preserve the stock, distributing the food in small portions. We will make it. I hope it'll end soon. So I'll always be able to find room and board at your place. You will. Take this as a reward too. These are nuts. I've been given some today. It's great luck. They must have come from an old cache. Do you know how to use them? Crack them before eating? What else am I supposed to do with nuts? No, don't eat them. Barter them. Our children would turn themselves inside out for these nuts. Keep that in mind, especially if you want to barter for something dangerous. Why do they value nuts so highly? It's an old game. A child takes a nut and sends it on all sorts of adventures. At some point, adults took all the nuts away from the kids. They thought this game provoked them to do something risky themselves. The most wonderful thing is that the children remember almost every nut in the town by heart. What, does each one of them have its own story or something? I think so. Well, anyway, it's pure treasure. Thank you. I'll come by to see you soon. I fail this test. Always keep the food. Feel bad, but not bad enough. Yeah, that is. I mean, that is a big part of this game. You know, you feel bad, but the the feelings of oh, this is a moral failing. Sort of like, oh well, I actually need to keep. I need to survive in order to keep playing the game. So you're sort of weighing up. I guess maybe it would be more profound. I don't know. Do you think it would be more profound if, for instance, there were actual like results? Like if you didn't give the food, all of a sudden these people just like vanished, like they were assumed to just have starved to death or something. I don't know whether that would make a difference to people's sort of perception or not of whether they were doing a good or bad thing, or sort of help tip the scales one way or the other. But I think it's the fact that this quest technically has no repercussions that might make it slightly different. Slightly, yeah, different to approach from a moral perspective. I mean, in this, yeah, Lara's redesign as well. I just wanted to touch on that for a second. I thought that was, thought it was interesting the way she was like really profoundly redesigned. I thought the in the second game, she looks a lot older in this one. I'm not actually sure. I think she was the same age. But yeah, you sort of she's got this big long floral dress on rather than she's dressed a bit more, I guess, informally in the second one. Yeah, yeah, that's what I did think. Um, that if there were sort of more actual impact to your actions. Oh, he threw the knife at that guy instead. If there are more actual impacts to your actions, then players would be more likely to actually accept some sort of practical setback and sort of use they rely on their morals a bit more because they feel worse about the way they've negatively impacted the game state. But you do, as a developer, you do need to put those sorts of things in the game to see those kinds of results. And one of the ways they do that in Pathologic 2 is if one of your people gets infected, there's this very obvious and visual result that they're covered in bandages, unlike in this game where they're not. They're just sort of standing there normally when you pass the executor at the door. The characters in 2 are supposed to be a bit older, I think. That's interesting. Um, like, just do you think that's just like Artemis' friends, or all of them? You think all of them are sort of bumped up in age a bit? Because yeah, that is it's an interesting decision to sort of age characters up. I guess time in this game is very fluid as well, and the characters all sort of have the same, roughly have the same kind of story beats in the original. But the redesigns of the characters are interesting, and I think for the most part are really successful. I think the only one I was really disappointed in was Georgi, and that's only because I really liked his purple robes. I think they're fantastic, like sorcerer robes. It's a shame he didn't get to keep them in the second one. Hello. Oh, he doesn't have a knife. He's running. You just got to bait them, basically. That's all you can do. Because, yeah, the combat is very simple, very sparse, but also janky. Yeah, while I don't like the feel of the of all of the second game over the first one, I think I kind of prefer the alien feel of the first one a little bit more. The otherworldliness, that magical realism, as we said before. Um, the characters, I think, were all done a lot better, more convincingly. Okay, What's the time? Almost the end of day 2, so we'll go to sleep in Yulia's house. How much health do I have? Not a heck of a lot. Well, how long does it say how long these go for? 5 hours. Okay, so if I have a 5-hour sleep with this, and you can see the health is going to go up a lot faster now, but I'm going to run into some hunger problems. So we'll see if we can... So now we're on day 3 as well. The prices will have changed again.
The day is over. Your timely efforts allowed your supporters to remain unharmed. A new mime performance is being rehearsed in theater.
Okay, and we're going to run to that mime performance. 2 is a more stressful experience, but 1 is a more thoughtful one. Yeah, I would agree with that. 1, I also had another really good YouTube comment that I can't remember the name of the user, unfortunately. But they were talking about how like this game's rhythm is a lot easier to get a hold of, and I agreed with that. I said to them that this game doesn't have as many twists and turns in the economy or that sort of thing as well. Your resources are a lot easier to manage in the end, and that sort of thing. Yeah, 2 puts you in the state of mind of needing to rush in your race against time. Yes, the whole time accelerating every day thing adds a lot of that magical realism, as you said, as well as just layering that stress on you. Like the game gets harder over time; it doesn't get easier over time. Whereas this one, while it should get harder over time, the hardest point for me in this game on my first playthrough, I think, was about the halfway point. And then after that, I sort of rode the wave a bit, and I was like, oh, this is a bit better. This isn't so bad, which is a shame. Not that 2 is bad at all, but I reflect more after a session of 1. Yeah, I can understand that. 1's, I think I said this in the first stream as well. I like to compare 1 to a big novel that you crack out by the fireplace or something similar, you know. Yeah, there's actually, it's not that you the last couple of days, I can't remember when it starts, or maybe it's the whole time. But time actually subtly speeds up the more you play. So on the last day of Pathologic 2, you have such a small window actually to find the all the papers that you need. Yeah. So I mean, it's good that they made you feel that time itself wasn't actually speeding up; that it was just in general like just stress, which is cool. Yeah, day 2 or 3. Yeah, I think it's something like that. But it's great that you didn't even you didn't even realize that it's just the general stress of the game as well is just getting to you, and that's exactly what survival horror should be about, and that's why I love survival horror as a genre, about just amping the stress up, amping the fear up. I'm just going to check the prices for today. Okay, what do we got? So there's a lot less, but the prices have been slashed in half. So yesterday it was $16.50. But there is less food because there's been panic buying and everyone's bought everything. So if you haven't stocked up on anything today, you're kind of screwed. But I'll just have my early morning breakfast of some smoked meats. Yeah, just because each day there was more to do, so it felt like there was less time to do it all. That also contributes a lot. Pathologic 1, I don't know if there's so much that feeling of escalation. I mean, some of the quests get longer and longer, but there's sort of always about the same level of things that you have to do. And as long as you're getting up early and starting the quest as early as possible, there's basically no way you can fail unless you stuffed up really badly the preceding day with your health or something. So Pathologic 2 in general is indeed the more engaging game. But there's still something to be said for this game, because it does It does a lot of really special things, and just because the second game is a bit more polished in its rhythm doesn't mean that the first game's rhythm is lessened at all. It's still a potent experience. But I can see if all you'd played was Pathologic 2 and you tried to come back to this, I do think it might be a bit of a, I don't know, it might be a challenging transition. Though I haven't spoken to many people who've done that particular, like played it in that order. So I'm not sure. It's kind of weird to think that Pathologic 2 came out like, yeah, what is it, 3 years ago? Jesus. Engaging is the perfect way to describe it. Had a lot of trouble playing one because it was difficult to engage with such a slow pace. Yeah, there's just it feels like this sort of the difficulty curve levels out like too early or something. There's there's not enough. There's not quite enough to sort of hold your attention because you're always relatively on top of things, and you might sort of run into a plague cloud or something, and that sort of stuffs up your day or something. But there was no, yeah, yeah, more worried about my dialogue choices and relations to characters, different concerns. Yeah, totally. They do have a slightly different focus, but I think Pathologic 2 manages to hold both, I guess, in concert, whereas one is definitely more of a wordy game than a game, I suppose you'd say. It's still very playable, but not as much emphasis or not as much polish or as much thought was placed on the first game's gameplay. I suppose the rhythm wasn't perfect, so you sort of have this beat that's quite easy to adjust to, whereas in the second one the beat is constantly changing and it's really hard to get used to it. Yeah. All right, let's watch this.
Rulers had to accept something was wrong.
Grab a drink.
Terrifying discoveries have convinced them. One of them managed to curb the family feud.
Bad news. The governor will abuse his power, and the rest won't let him get away with this. Nothing's changed.
The town was placed in quarantine. From now on, the infected districts will be locked down, and no one will be able to leave until the situation is resolved.
Well, it won't be. They won't figure it out.
It's the old executors again. There's some, yeah, I guess, yeah, foreshadowing. You're trapped in the little sandbox with limited tools. That's all there is. And what do we say? That's a really good point. It seems like 2 pushes you towards addressing the bigger picture, while 1 pushes you to connect with the people. I love that. That's, yeah. Both of you have done a really good job of summarizing that the relationship or the difference between the 2 games. And
When we
maybe that's why for
ourselves
me,
in ourselves,
one
it is useless to seek it elsewhere.
one was a bit more like, it felt a bit more personal, the story beats and that sort of thing, probably because, as you say, the downtime lets you sort of ponder the character situations a bit more. Whereas in 2, yeah, there is no downtime, or almost no downtime. I guess, yeah, it really is the tricky balance, and that's why I'm glad both games exist, because they're both doing it in different ways, and I can definitely see why 2 has become, has sort of in the minds of many superseded the original. But I don't think it's fair to say that it actually has necessarily completely sort of superseded it. It's still a really good game. But as you say, it's doing different things, and it's allowing you to think different things, have a different perspective. It really is. The second one, they were right when they said it was a reimagination. Yeah. That was a very accurate term. It's not a remake. It's not a remaster. It's a reimagining. It has different focuses, different goals, and that's exactly what those goals are. The gameplay is more stressful, and there's a bit more emphasis on, yeah, those sort of the moral choices can be slightly in both this slightly tricky, but it's definitely the gameplay loop is much more refined in the second one. All right, in the first one, all you do at night, like, Yeah, a big difference. I don't know if anyone else felt this way as well, but in the first game, all I do at night, like it doesn't matter what state of health I'm in, I just come out in the middle of the night and just like start fighting these guys. But in the second one, I avoided conflict most of the time, and I'm not sure. I guess that's because the second one's combat you couldn't cheese it so much. Like the jank was still there, but it was good jank. Good jank. I say, it was good. It was good because you indeed felt like Artemy, who didn't really know how to fight. But this one, there's it's just sort of the enemies are clumsy, like just as clumsy as you, and you can exploit that. Whereas in the second one, it feels like the enemies always have a potential slight edge on you, at least if you're not careful. Especially the worms. The worms in the second game are actually the kind of enemies that you think that they should be. I was always a bit disappointed fighting the worms in this one because they're very easy to kill. They sort of just have the same slow attacks. I love the bandits in one. Hated them in two. Died more to the bandits in two than any other threat. Yeah, the bandits. Yeah, I agree. The bandits almost were more dangerous than the plague. To be honest, probably yeah. Going busting into those the abandoned houses in two feels profoundly dangerous. Whereas if you're going in one, it's a bit less dangerous. I wonder as well because if you remember, the difference in two is that there's clocks. You can only save at clocks. You can't save anywhere you like. And I remember on my first playthrough of this, I was saving a lot, and on my first playthrough of two as well, I was also saving a lot. But I was also only saving at people's houses, you know. Um, So maybe the fear of losing progress is something I've tried to talk about, especially in relation to the original like Resident Evil games, because you have your ink ribbons where you have to save. You know, you have to expend stuff to save your game, which overall seems like a really bad idea, and it is if you're not good at the game. Um, but there's a genuine sense of fear and foreboding when you're like, if I die here, I've got to go back like half an hour, and that's either a really good feeling for raising the fear level, but then when you die, I think the feeling of frustration sort of outweighs that. Because I played through Resident Evil 7 on Madhouse difficulty. I think yeah, it must have been at the start of this year, and that uses cassette tapes to save. And I found that I had at one point almost screwed myself. I had to keep constantly play through this really long section over and over again. Uh, but as I did that, I refined my strategy. I got much better at the game because of that long sequence. But it's whether or not it's worth is it worth the pain, that sort of thing. The saving. I think the saving in the game as well. And I was talking about that in Silent Hill 3, in fact. The saving, being able to save anywhere, does disrupt the fear a bit. Does disrupt the flow of the game, and I'm aware of that. But at the same time, I also realize, like on stream in particular, I don't think I'd be saving that much if I wasn't on stream. I'm happier to go back and replay a section when it's just me. But yeah, I'm not. It's a tricky one. I don't know what I'd do if I was. I don't know what I'd do yet if I was designing a big survival horror game myself. Um, whether I guess I'd probably use the old clock or safe room. I think does encourage a better style of play, um, and it lets the developers curate the experience a bit more, which in horror is fairly essential, if you ask me. You do need to control the player's flow and movements a bit more than you do in other genres. And so you see, there we are. There's our first sort of glimpse of a plague cloud, and there, unlike in the second one, I'm just going to leave the plague district for a minute. Unlike in the second one, um, they're sort of they're they're more ghostly. They're sort of made up of like sort of ashen, screaming faces. Were in this one, whereas the second one, uh, they're just like sort of black, floating black mold or something, you know. So there's sort of more magical, as you said again. There's a magical realism. Really should have written that down or something before. I need to like write a list. But yeah, more surreal horror in this one, and especially emphasizing the unreality of the horror. So you're juxtaposing the sort of the horrible suffering of the people in the street with the weird nature of the plague itself, how it manifests itself as these sort of screaming faces. I find that an interesting difference that they chose to change that. Okay, just see if there's anything I need. So I got 13,000. You know what, I'll go back to Ava's house for now, and I'm going to drop some stuff off because I kept trying to pick up knives and lockpicks, and I haven't been able to pick up any of them. Going to drop some lockpicks off at Ava's house. The morning of the third day has come. Infected yesterday 31, died yesterday 37, gone missing 14, total death toll 111, currently infected 51. All ends in less than 10 days. Day 3, in which the Bachelor is offered to hunt the elusive enemy and evaluate the chances of necrosis. Alrighty. I love those opening sort of little opening statements for each day. It's a very cool way to sort of state the overall objective for the day. It gives it a sort of a cinematic feel. And cinematic, I guess, some people consider it kind of a dirty word in video games, but it's not always a bad thing. You certainly don't want to have just it be a film like David Cage's games. I've never been able to get into those because it's obvious that team just wants to make films. They're very good technical achievements, but they're not what I'd call very good game experiences. The stories themselves, I probably shouldn't get started on that. Terrible. Alright, let's gather up all these bins. The bottles. Okay. One thing I'd almost forgotten about in this game as well. Press X to solve death. Yeah. if David Cage had made Pathologic, just some several very serious shots of the Bachelor just sitting in Ava's house, just like furrowing his brow, and you've got to hold down L2 and R2 to sort of pick up the beaker of the plague virus, and that's great. Bandages. I've got a lot of water bottles now. Okay. So we're going to drop this stuff off, and then we need to go see... Oh, cool. We do need to go see Yorgi. And these guys, they're for boosting reputation, but we don't need to boost them right now. Dodge plague clouds with slow square. Yeah. Hold down square, then hold down L2, then hold down L1. Yeah. They're not... Yeah, I find his games... Especially... The game I find most confusing that gets all the praise is Beyond, because the only two redeeming parts of that game for me were Elliot Page and what's his name, Willem Dafoe. Yeah, but other than that, I found the whole game just this horrible, tedious bore. I think if it wasn't for Elliot Page, I never would have finished it. But yeah, that was a bad one, all right. Okay, what else do we have that we don't need? I want to test that, and we're going to keep the lens on us because I also want to test that. Although I've never found it particularly useful in this game. I never really used it. I don't know if anyone else did, but it wasn't particularly useful. I watched it and thought David Lynch would sue him for fever dream plot. Yeah, it goes all over the place, that game. I really don't know what he was thinking, if anything. If he probably wasn't thinking. But yeah, he's got no subtlety. He certainly, if you tried to make this, there'd be no there'd be no metatextual layers, that's for sure. It would be served up to you just straight up because he thinks he's very clever. Okay, I'm coming. I haven't even looked at the polyhedron properly. There it is. Here's the polyhedron. Goodbye. We'll get to climb it soon, I promise. Alright.
Who could have thought? A plague is staring us in the face.
My dear doctor,
That's how much his demise means.
misfortune is a regular guest in our family home. A new calamity has befallen us. What is it? The house in which Reuben lived and worked has been tainted by infectious mold and fallen prey to the looters. Our messengers searched every nook and cranny. Neither Reuben nor Simon's body are in the house. Some of the people that helped to undertake the search are paying a terrible price. They've contacted the sand pest. How would you explain the absence of the body? It appears that once the infection began to spread across the house, Master Reuben decided to remove the body. He must have taken it to some hidden location that he considered safe. However, since we still haven't heard from him, we can only infer that Reuben is dead. Let's hope that Reuben will get in touch soon. Something tells me that isn't going to happen. Were you going to ask me for help? Please help us recover the body, Doctor. We're already much indebted to you for having identified Simon's killer. It's not your fault that the truth turned out to be so distressing to us all. I implore you to help Simon and us once more. Find my brother's body. The task is far from trivial. Where do I even start? Someone may have seen something. I believe you've made some useful acquaintances in the town's slums. That sort of speaks to you. What do you think of those people? Not to mention we have all manner of low life here. Could they know something? Speak to my brother Victor. He is much better than me where the practical side of things is concerned. But you know what I find. And seriously, isn't that a great robe? I wish he'd kept that. Wish we could have seen that in full glory. 2019. What a shame. So we'll just pop over and see Victor here. Alright. Hug the fireplace. Okay.
It is far easier to be wise for others than to be so for oneself.
Every hour brings us more trouble. I'm looking for your brother's body, Victor. Do you have any ideas on the subject? I do. If I were you, Olgimski's son would be the first person I'd turn to. Young Vlad, nicknamed Sharon. Reuben and he have had some business together. He knows places where Reuben may have taken the body. Have you already asked him? I've tried, but we're in a difficult position now. On the one hand, we are putting pressure on his father. On the other, we're asking him for a favor. Putting pressure, I was under the impression yesterday that we had managed to put an end to all disputes between the ruling families. There can never be an end to disputes between our families. It's possible as reuniting day with night. Now I feel that Big Vlad's actions have a bearing on the root of all our troubles. I don't like the silence from the termitary. Could it be there that the infamous murderer is hiding? Your brother succumbed to the disease. I thought we'd already come to terms with that. A stranger has made their way into the town. Human or Shabnak, it doesn't matter. We can't establish whether their involvement in Simon's death was direct or indirect, but the involvement is clearly there. It has been revealed to Maria in a dream that the cause of Simon's death is hiding at the termitary. I intend to find out why Big Vlad refuses so adamantly to open it. And you should ask Vlad the Younger if you get the chance. Alright, I'll try to ask Vlad. Vlad the Younger is a loyal son. He may be cynical, but deep inside he believes in the precepts of vassal ethics. He has no reason to conceal a crime, but he never helped us knowing that we're acting against his father's best interests, notwithstanding our respect for each other. I respect such adherence to principles too. Okay. And you'll notice as well, so the colouring of the side quest is white rather than red on the map, which I think is a nice, I guess, preliminary look at how the mind map. I like the explanation of the mind map colours on the second one, whereas a quest sort of ended or failed isn't sort of in red, it's in gold, because a quest ignored is not necessarily a quest failed in Pathologic, which I like. You're not getting this, you're not getting red. Like I always remember hating games that sort of have the big sort of red crosses, sort of marking you down. I think the biggest example I can think of is when I played through Assassin's Creed 3 10 years ago or something. But that's always stuck in my mind because whenever you failed a side objective in that game, a big red X would pop up in the left hand corner of the screen. That's just disheartening. Like like it doesn't want the it doesn't make the player want to continue playing the game. It just makes them want to quit because you're actively marking them down. Whereas the marking down should come from the player themselves. They should be thinking, "Oh, I could have done that better, couldn't I?" So if you're going to mark a player down, you have to do it. You have to do it in a subtle way, and I guess that's what the morals in Pathologic are about as well. Sort of encouraging you to reflect upon yourself and to look at yourself critically and sort of be like, well, this is the simulation of the plague, or the simulation that they developed. Um, is it, have I been? Is this the right thing to do in this situation? And that's what the game is encouraging you to reflect on, because there's no big, oh, you failed, you suck. There's none of that sort of thing from the developers themselves. Not really. There's just this nasty sort of feeling that settles inside your gut of your own accord when you realize I really stuffed something up. I had the exact same feeling when playing Assassin's Creed 3. Yeah, it's bad. Like, it was such a bad design decision. I have no idea who approved that.
I am crushed by these walls.
I can't remember if the other ones did the same. I think Assassin's Creed 3 was probably the worst one for that, but I think the ones that surrounded it as well. Maybe Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and that sort of thing. Can't remember the name of the other one. Revelations. Those ones. I think they might have had the same system, but 3. I definitely remember the red cross was bigger in that game. I swear. I swear. How can I help you? Reuben's disappeared. His home has been infected and looted. Neither his body nor Simon's was there. Where could he have gone? I don't know. I haven't seen him. Do you suspect that Reuben is dead? Oh, why should I suspect that? If Reuben were alive, he would undoubtedly make his whereabouts known. He certainly wouldn't keep quiet about the pest getting inside the town. He's one of the few who have an actual understanding of what that entails. Is that what you think? Well, if neither Reuben nor Simon were in the dead house, that means Reuben has at least attempted to move the keeper's body to another place. Otherwise, we'd have to surmise that someone has stolen 2 infected bodies for peculiarly obscure purposes. Wouldn't you agree? You're reading my mind. I find it hard to believe that the body has been stolen. No madman could ransom it to the Canes and get away alive, and you could never find the kind of blasphemer who would defile it out of sheer malice. Reuben will make himself known soon, you'll see. And still, I beg for your assistance. There is no doubt in my mind you have a theory of your own. Look, Reuben's dealings with our family are our family's business. We value his trust. I don't feel that disclosing the details to you would be the right thing to do. And unless I see that, the family would benefit more than it would suffer from that exchange. Do you understand? In all honesty, I don't. Stop talking in riddles. I want to settle the dispute between us and the Canes concerning our unwillingness to let emissaries into the termitory. I don't know what the Canes are thinking, but we are not harbouring anything or anyone there that could be of even remote interest to them, especially to my deeply esteemed fellow Victor. Why don't you let the inspectors in? First of all, it's dangerous. The rabble is rioting. I've told you about that more than once already. Secondly, father will not submit to the younger Cane's orders. If this keeps up, we'll soon be taking orders from his 10-year-old son, who we haven't met yet, but who's a very good character. Fine, what's your plan? The Canes are hiding something too. They have their own skeletons in the closet, and it's even more unsightly than ours. Our closet is full of our own workers. Theirs is full of other people's children. If you can make sure that everything is well inside the polyhedron, told you we're going to get to climate, then trust me, the termitory is fine too. It's an enclave, a closed chamber. So you believe that quarantine will be effective in keeping the infection out of that giant bunkhouse? Certainly. Did you not say yourself, at least that's how it was relayed to me, that walls are a solid defense? Besides, think of what will happen if 10,000 people pour into the streets in search of food and gossip. Try to imagine the picture. Sounds convincing. I'll inspect the polyhedron and talk to Victor, but I'll ask a favour of you in return. Help me find Simon's body. Tried to curb the righteous anger of the judge and the terrible Victor. They seem to have finally decided to harass my father to death. I have no doubt that no matter what he did, it's not his fault. If you do that, I will gladly assist you. Deal. So that was a long and interesting conversation about politics. And as I said last time, Bachelor's all about politics in his campaign. He's dealing with the higher ups, and he's the intermediary in their schemes, and he does get used quite a bit. And by the end, that does make him a little bit bitter for good reason. I had that feeling in Oblivion and Skyrim when they noted you failed or ended a quest differently than what they wanted. I always liked what I did, but then the quest log was wagging its finger at me. Yeah, Bethesda games, they do have a big problem with that kind of thing, and I guess it's restricted just by, as you say, just by the framing. Like it's not even deliberate, but it comes up with, yeah, quest failed, um, and you sort of like you're sort of feeling chastised by the game. Fallout is even trickier than that because you have the like games with moral meters in general. I've talked about this lots before. It's a favorite topic of a lot of people. But games with moral meters in general, they encourage several probably bad ways to play a game. Where if you're either trying to like min max your character to make all of the good decisions, so you're not like actually role playing or making the decisions you yourself would make, or the decisions you yourself would find interesting. You're making the decisions that get you the most good points or the most evil points. You see that in Mass Effect. That system didn't work out quite so well. I don't think it was a good idea labeling them Paragon and Renegade, but it didn't work out so well in the end. In Fallout, there's a lot of like morally grey things that you can do, but the game will often label them either good or evil karma, and sometimes necessarily you might not agree with the game's labeling. And what's liberating about Pathologic is that the game doesn't label you with those kinds of things. You're left to make up your own mind about whether that was morally good or evil. And some characters can indeed lecture you for oh, how come you didn't give me the food yesterday, or that sort of thing. But overall, there's no meter tracking your good or evil. There's just your reputation is about the closest thing you're going to get. But you can argue that this is not a moral meter. This is indeed a reputation meter. If you had to kill, like on the first day, you can kill a guy like I did to save a woman's life, and that's going to bump your reputation down. But you know that that's a good thing to do, and there's no, it's not positive or negative reinforcement morally. The game is not morally judging you. The game is just giving you like a negative bump to reputation, showing that the town is judging you, but not the game. And that's a really, really important distinction to make, because when the universal game systems are judging you, this is a problem I've thought about for probably way too long. When those universal game systems are judging you, then you're going to feel like you're playing the game wrong somehow, and that's a big problem. Feeling judged by a game, you have to walk such a fine line to do it, especially in linear games or games with these multiple choices. Um, and most of the time, it simply feels more elegant to do it the way Pathologic does it, which is a much smarter way to approach it, and also encourages you to think critically about your own moral actions rather than relying on some invisible good evil barometer that sort of tests. Oh, look, you're good enough. You're good enough to make this extra good decision. Um, yeah, Mass Effect 3 had a few painful requirements for that kind of thing, and it's like, well, why can't I make the good decision? Oh, because you didn't make enough good decisions previously, and that to me was always a bit nonsense. I never really liked that. There's my rant about morals in video games for today.
Lad is right. Whatever happens in the dormitory, it'll be ill-advised to open it now.
Every hour brings us more trouble. I come bearing news from the Olgimskis that has to do with the termitary. Most curious. Look at the way his face changed. What is it? Vlad the Younger asked me to tell you the following. The termitary had been closed before the polyhedron was, and there are many witnesses to that. Really? What is he getting at? He has no reason to believe the situation inside the termitary is different from that inside the tower. Ingenious. Damn it. All right, so be it. If that's how he's spinning it, then I'm forced to leave him alone for now. You can tell him that. It will only last until we find proof that not everything is in order inside the termitary. Perhaps you might order your son to open the polyhedron so that Olgimski's agents could inspect it. They will give us the right to inspect the termitary. My son has long ceased obeying me. He regards me as an enemy. Only Nina had an influence on him. His beloved sister was someone he might have trusted, but now even Maria can't make him open the polyhedron, and I wouldn't take the risk either. Let the children remain fortified. I'd like to make sure your confidence is not groundless. My son has now founded a kingdom of his own. There it is, towering above our sinful earth. He wouldn't let anyone into that world, not even his own father. If you're interested to know what's going on there, give it a try. Maria thinks you're a man for whom nothing is impossible. Yes, I'll follow your advice. A lot of games want you to roleplay, but then end up making it feel punishing. I think the mechanical limitations probably make it trickier, but agree that town versus developer is a big deal. Yeah. Certainly a lot of it's. I'm not saying it's easy to make a moral system in games, because it's not, and a lot of people, a lot of very talented developers have put a lot of thought into making moral systems um, good, uh, or making them more thoughtful. But yeah, I think my personal preference is that the developers aren't the ones judging you. That it should be the characters in the game is far more interesting than the developers like smacking your hand and saying no, bad. I think Mass Effect 3 is pretty good for that, since it combined the Paragon and Renegade points you got into one reputation bar. Okay. Does the reputation bar, like, what did that affect? Because like, did that did I just not make enough decisions in general? Did I make too many neutral decisions? That's another problem, I guess. But I remember that specific decision at uh, the end of Rannoch or whatever. That needs like an ungodly amount of points. Mass Effect 2 sucked for this because you had to commit to one alignment, and if you didn't, yeah, you risked out losing out on getting the persuasion dialogue. Yeah, for the loyalty missions, right? Like, you had to keep one loyal, or one or the other loyal. I found that really annoying and a bit alienating, if I'm honest. Didn't make much sense that I'd just gone through all this effort to help them, and then they get into one petty argument, and I side with one, and then they're like, "Well, there's my loyalty." Yeah, Mass Effect 2's bars near the end were awful for it. Yeah, was furious I couldn't save people because they made like two renegade decisions. Yeah, it's just punishing you for role playing, and not even punishing you in the short term. It punishes you in the long term, which is an awful way to do it. Like, I love, like, Mass Effect 2 is a really good game, um, but it's like that. The way it handles its moral meters is just a bit baffling, really. I'm not sure how that slipped through. It doesn't encourage role playing in any good way. You're always pushing either to the top decision or the bottom decision. You're never picking the neutral decision, because if it's not going to get you the good result that you want. Yes, yeah, yes. The characters are playing by different rules, and not in a good way, like the pathologic way. Just in the You're watching these characters make all these morally great decisions, but all you can be is either a supreme dick or the nicest person in the galaxy. Yeah. You can't go inside, or else the tower will topple. I'm a friend of the Kanes. I've come to see Khan. You're in luck then. Khan has left the facets to mourn his grandfather. Come in, but don't try to get inside. You really don't want us all to perish, do you? I really don't. Alright. Here we are, inside the polyhedron. This is weird. I always found this weird. For many, many reasons. You've got the walls made of sort of all this writing and blueprints and that sort of thing, and these funky lanterns that look like they came out of a completely different game. Not really sure what their purpose is. And Khan, I much preferred Khan's look in the second game as well.
It will be as I say.
The Fable games are very black and white in that way. Like, you're either a hero or a serial killer. Yeah. I've only played through a bit of the first Fable game, actually. Would you recommend playing through any more? Because I sort of immediately ran into that problem, and probably that was a big problem for me because I'd thought so long about the moral meters and decisions in games that I was a bit sick of that kind of thing. But, like, are they worth playing? I don't know. Adults are not allowed in here. It can topple the tower. Common sense suggests otherwise. The tower does not abide by the laws of common sense. We have different laws here. Perhaps we ought to get acquainted. See, the bachelor's kind of thing. My name is Caspar. I am son to Victor and Nina, the youngest of the Canes. Now name yourself. Bachelor Dankovsky. Are you a friend of our family? I am.
This tower is Mom's gift.
You wanted to speak to me. I'm listening. I need to examine the structure. No, guest. That is impossible. We don't trust grown-ups. We can't allow the corruption to get inside. That's why we risk our lives guarding this place. Perhaps the pains we're taking will be convincing enough proof for you. Who are you guarding your tower from? You? Your doppelgangers? Everyone who comes from across the river. I don't have any doppelgangers. You do. 2 of them. Also endeavoring to save humanity. At least that's what they say. Every word they utter mirrors yours, and so far they've caused nothing but harm. What kind of harm? Our salvation lies in repose and silence. Our town must stay still now, freeze, like someone who stirred up a nest of venomous snakes. Then the disease will abate and burn up in its own flames. I was told these were your words. Were they? Close enough, but what do my doppelgangers have to do with anything? They make people uneasy. It's because of them that no one stays put. Disturbed by the Haruspex' actions and the changeling's balmy preaching, people start fussing and end up laying their lives upon the altar of the common good. We children will not listen to you. Why? What did I do to lose the trust of children? I'm protecting our world. We were doing just fine without you. We can handle this plague even if it spells the end of the world. Did you want to check that this place is clean? Have a look around. It is clean, I promise you. But I won't let you in, wise bachelor. No offense. Are you sure? You may mean well, but you bring evil and destruction all the same. This town is too fragile for your thudding steps. Your heavy hand will crush us all, even if you're only grabbing us in order to pull us out of the abyss. Go in peace. Everything's alright here. Will you promise to let me know if anybody becomes sick? I promise. I'll be happy to talk to you any time here at the Agate Pit. And if something terrible happens inside, I'll be the first to shout for your help. That's reassuring. I'll just... the end of Rannoch does require a lot of specific decisions to be made beforehand for the best outcome. Okay. Well, then maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. Maybe I'm not giving that Mass Effect bit enough credit. Maybe I should have made some more considered decisions, I suppose. If so, then yeah, maybe I need to revisit that game in general. I think I only ended up playing it through twice, which maybe wasn't enough times. And Fable 2 is incredibly boring, personally. And 2 is considered better for mechanics and 1 better for story. Pretty sure they all have that weird take on measuring morals. Fable 2, 2 moral bars. Not sure if they make it that much more layered. Okay. That's interesting. So, two moral meters, but they sound sort of like they do the same thing. Sounds like added complexity for no real benefit. By the sounds of it, good, evil, pure, corrupt. Like, what are the difference between those two decisions? Because I haven't played it, but it doesn't sound that profoundly different. And yeah, I probably should talk about the polyhedron in this game is still fantastical, but it doesn't look like it's not as fantastical as the second one. The second one really is gorgeous, but this one is a bit uglier, and that's not just because of the old graphics. It's just dirtier. Like the other one glows, and this one still glows a bit, but the steps are sort of this ugly brown hue, sort of at the edges, sort of moldy. I find that a really interesting change. Though I love the music that plays inside the polyhedron, which turned out to be a source for a lot of Russian, several other Russian games. There's a music file that's played in several others, but it fits the polyhedron perfectly. Minnow Gorganic, I think it's called. Pure Corrupt was like, are you vegan or an alcoholic? Oh dear. It's just a very simplified version of D&D alignments. It still is black and white. Oh, right. So like chaotic, lawful sort of thing. I see. So you've got like a table. Gotcha. Yeah, D&D alignment. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Okay. Do I go back and see Victor, or as I understand it, they're sort of removing alignment from D&D. I read, which was interesting. Like it doesn't appear on stat blocks anymore. It's just it's like color rather than color or flavor rather than this essential anymore. Do you know anything regarding Ruben's whereabouts? Sadly, no. The disappearance of Master Ruben fills me with the sincerest regret. He is, of course, the person most to blame for the loss of our brother's remains, but that's not what matters. And what is? We have no competent people left except you, unable to put up a struggle. It's a bit defeatist. Is it true what I've been told, that you declined Sabarov's request and did not accept responsibility for the town's future? Who told you such nonsense? Not only did I agree, I explicitly stated my eagerness to do all this within my power, right up until I tried to escape. You're a noble man, Bachelor Dankovsky, so we do still have a hope. That's my duty towards the powers that be. Okay. I guess we have to see young Vlad, I suppose. We'll pop in and see him. Hope that is true. I was picking alignment and then fall into my character and realize they aren't that alignment. Yeah, that like the problem with those kinds of moral systems again is that they're so rigid. And if you have someone who wants you to play very rigidly, then I mean it's not that much fun because that's not how morality works, right? Like morality, like it's important to have a code, and there's very basic sets of things that you should do to be morally good and that sort of thing. But for more complex grey decisions that you're often asked to make in these kinds of in these kinds of games, it feels unfair a lot of the time to be sort of artificially judged or pushed into making specific decisions. But yeah, don't take my word for it. I'd look it up and check that that's what's happening with the new D&D, because I think they're making like a. I read that they're making like 5.5e or something, and that's one of the changes that they're making. They're just sort of cycling alignment out of monsters and maybe out of players as well. Um, I remember that you get pure points for lowering rent and corrupt points for raising rent on your own properties. I see. So you can be a property mogul as well. Gotcha. And alignment is tied to owning property. Okay, that makes sense. Vampire is thankfully more flexible, but still a humanity bar. But it accepts that everyone has bad sides, which I think is important. Yeah, Vampire is a good example. I quite like the way Vampire system works because you've got these very negative actions that lower your humanity, but they're actions that, as a vampire, you're sort of expected to take, right? So it's this constant wrestle between your inner nature when you're playing and the actual things that you know as a human being would want to do, like the good things that you want to do. And it's showing that yeah, it's a perfect sort of push and pull, like tug of war between the two sort of good and evil, but done in a much more subtle and
Is the
effective
Umpire
way.
inside the
That's a
well?
great example.
Or am I getting the jitters?
How can I help you? I managed to settle the matter. Victor will no longer insist on expecting the termitory. I'll keep my word. Honouring the venerable Simon's remains is our mutual goal. We are bound by the same grief. There's a Ripper, perhaps even more than one, on the loose in the knots. I think they're runaway butchers. Runaway butchers. Or those few who were unlucky enough to find themselves outside when the termitory was blocked off. Now they're hiding in the town. I believe they're stealing the dead to use their bodies for divination. They have their own future-telling techniques. Where could they be hiding? To be honest, I'm not sure myself. One curious young man managed to trace their path. It seems they have been carrying the dead to the spleen district. Mark the house on your map. If they resist, am I allowed to kill them? Not only kill, but take whatever possession of theirs you may find in that house. Body snatchers are no longer protected by law, even if they happen to be butchers. Very well. Okay. So we'll try the gun out for this one, I think. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think. What other kinds of moral systems? Like, if there are any other really standout ones. It's a bit sad that the moral system I consider to be standout is this game, which doesn't really have a moral system at all beyond your own moral compass and sort of the pressures growing on you. Um, yeah, Silent Hill 2 actually has a really good one because it's not a moral meter. It's just judging your decisions not along your moral guidelines, but along sort of guidelines of your character, but it's doing it without telling you as well, so you don't feel judged either. You feel that the ending that you get is really naturally sort of, oh, this is how the game was meant to end for me, and that's really important. And I don't know many other games, if any, that have really replicated the success of Silent Hill 2's quiet monitoring. A lot of games get a bit too clever about it, which obviously, I mean, why not? Why not try and be a little clever about it? Do some fancy things, but fancy things can lead to some sort of negative outcomes for the player, where you sort of see through the veil and see maybe how thin the ending decision making process is when it's just tallying up numbers, and you don't necessarily want that for your game. Silent Hill 2's threw me off because I wanted to experience everything, and then I read all the items. Yeah, I mean, my first playthrough exactly the same. I read all the items. I examined everything. I played it. As a survival horror game, basically. I was very conservative with my health. I only used my healing items when I needed them and that sort of thing. But Silent Hill 2, and obviously, you get a depressing ending for playing like that, because you were sort of acting, morose and suicidal, and you were sort of meandering your way through the town, um, which I really liked. I mean, I personally thought that was a really valuable way to construct your game. But I can definitely see why some people wouldn't like it as much. Okay, so there's going to be some jump scares in here, probably. Not like big noisy jump scares, but they might come around the corner and just ambush me, but we'll see. These houses, they're really hard to get through intact, basically. That's what I'm saying. Hear the sound of buzzing flies. Yes, I'm hoping when I stream Silent Hill 2 later on this year, I'm hoping I can talk about that a bit more, because it's definitely one of my favorite games. We played it for my thesis on storytelling mechanics in horror games, and highlighted the knife in particular. Yeah, the knife is such a good example of that. It serves no mechanical purpose, right? But it's like no actual. It's not a weapon or anything, but it is such a good item, because you sort of naturally sort of like, oh, well, what's the purpose of it? I'm gonna have a look at it, but that sort of encourages James's tendencies. Shocked my professors who had no clue things like that were possible, and I mean, it's a testament to Silent Hill 2's power that it can still, what is it? Yeah, it's over 20 years old now, and it has that power. Okay, just hello, hi. Sorry, there's another one in here. Okay, got him. Can I loot them? No, they're not lootable. No, they're not. I'll reload my gun and put it away anyway. And here we have, Simon's body, or what we seem to be Simon's body. I think this was in the first days. -2 purity points. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. If I apologize, does that give me points back? I don't know. Please judge me. Yeah. Okay, where do I need to go now? Is it Simon? I guess we can just go back to Georgi now, don't we? Hello. You're got some problems there, I think. All right. You yeah. Sorry again about that. That's my bad. Okay. So yeah, just back to Georgi. The lighting in the town as well feels a bit different in the cloudy, sort of the cloudy setting. You sort of got starting to see this tinge of green come in, and you're getting this sort of the idea of the infection seeping into the bones of the town. I'm just trying to think if I don't think Pathologic 2 plays with color as profoundly as this one does, because this one, like, the color scheme changes quite drastically. From when you step into an infected district to when you step into a regular district to when you step into an abandoned district. Like abandoned's like orange and infected is like pure green, whereas this is sort of just an intermediary sort of gloomy stage. Still depressing, but not quite as depressing or confronting. Press X to murder. David Cage strikes again. I'm trying to, there were some truly awful moral decisions in those games, and some really heavy-handed allegories. Yeah, I would not recommend playing those. Yeah, not good game design, not good storytelling. I'll always be disappointed by Omicron, the Nomad Soul, which stars David Bowie, and that should make a game. It's the one and only game that stars David Bowie, and it should make a game like 10 out of 10. But somehow it's still one of the worst games I've ever played. So yeah, thanks a lot, David Cage. The one video game that they got David Bowie in, he ruined it. Unbelievable. Still makes me grumpy, Okay, just coming back along here. I might pop into the clothing store and see if there's any more needles. How many needles do I have actually before I buy any more? I have a lot of money, but needles are so important. I just love filling my pockets with needles and just jabbing my fingers every time I try to fish out a hunk of bread. Okay, he's got nothing. It's most impressive. 16 needles is not bad, right? I think I'm approaching some kind of record. I'm hoping, yeah. Let's go. Yeah, let's go for 99 needles by the end of the game. Yeah, just buy all the schmouters. I haven't found anyone else with a schmouter though, unfortunately. So I've still just got the one. I really do need to find some more. Okay. Hello. Okay.
I'm too old. Nothing can harm me anymore.
I will ritually reward a friend that finds someone's body for me, and I'll squeeze the last drop of blood from the mongrel who stole it. I found the body snatchers, as they were runaway butchers. Did you find the body? A body, dissected and disfigured. However, I find it hard to believe that it once belonged to your brother. I'll show you the building where I found it. I'll send my people there at once. You have my gratitude. Be cautious. And we get 4,000 coins for that. Meant the fact that Cage ruined Bowie somehow. Yeah, that is impressive as well. It's truly shocking. He really is the only redeeming quality of that game, and the only reason probably anyone would bother playing it now. But it's filled with. I wrote an article on it on my website, but it's filled with all of the worst video game tropes. But it's like this alone should dissuade you from playing it for yourself. But imagine a giant like open world, so GTA 3 style, and then imagine putting a point and click adventure puzzle item hunt in GTA 3. That's basically what Omicron is. Plus a budget Virtua Fighter and a budget swimming game, mini game in it, and a budget Doom, and that's Omicron. I really hope I've sold it there for you. What a fantastic game. Oh, it's a nasty one, all right. And we're going to start seeing some new medicine as well coming in, so we might as well trade for some of that. So that's better than the yellow pills, the blue ones. I do like the sort of slow trickle of as the town releases more medical supplies. I find that cool. This sort of the slow trickle of resources. Okay, I need to find this and see this. Yeah, I'm. Good luck. There's a playthrough by the super best friends, which is how I'd recommend playing it. Or experiencing it. It's Omicron, the Nomad Soul. Absolutely stunning game. That playthrough is very good because it's a chronicle into madness. That one, those guys just descend into madness while they play the game, and it never ends as well. The game is super long, awful. I hope I've stressed that. I hope I've made that clear. Don't buy the game. I wouldn't recommend playing it. The economy mechanics are really cool in this game, actually. Yeah, the shifts and price is still one of my favorite mechanics in the game. Pathologic's economic system. I think the second one does it a bit better, right? But the first one, I still found that really shocking the first time I played it, like really confronting, because you sort of expect prices to stay the same because that's what they do in other games. But it's an indicator that this game like shifts and changes around you, and I think that's so cool. I don't think, to my knowledge, I hadn't encountered a game that did that before. That like you start to see prices being raised in response to events that are actually happening in the game. It was the first game I'd played that did that, and probably still the only game I've played that did it in an actually good way. It really is, it really is cool, and because of the rising prices, it's one of the only games where you would like. One of my favorite stories about this game is people who go and trade their weapons to buy a loaf of bread. I feel like one weaponized the economy in a way since it happens so suddenly before you even start understanding what's going on. Yeah, exactly. On your first playthrough, you're caught off guard in a big way. You have so few, like you wouldn't have thought to stock up on items because that's not how you play these games. Like you get items when you need them, but in this game you have to deliberately prepare. But the thing is, there is on your first playthrough you don't know that you need to deliberately prepare, and that's what makes the first playthrough of this game so powerful. Is that you don't know what's coming up next. but two weaponizes it as well, in a big way too. It has several sort of large one large one I can think of, but another couple of small ones around the barter system. Um, but one large shift in the way the economy actually works, and then it chucks everything you knew out the window. I thought that was marvelous. I felt so betrayed, but I also felt betrayed in this one too. On the second day, when I was like, wait, weren't bread loaves like 300 yesterday, and now they're 1,000 or like 3,000 or something crazy. It's just this ruthless experience. Two, yeah. Two also warns you a bit through the townspeople. It foreshadows the lack of resources. This game is like, yep, economy crashed. Yeah, I mean, this game does do sort of a similar thing. I guess it doesn't warn you quite as much because everyone's talking about panic buying on the second day when the economy's like jacked up. But in this one as well, I haven't stopped to talk to anyone properly about it. But they do talk about how they sort of all the prices, like how everyone's bought everything out basically, and that's why we're seeing so few items in the shops at the moment. So I like that as well. I remember wondering if my memory was failing when I realized how much more bread costed on day two. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the same experience I had. I was like, wait, what? Wait, what's going on? Yeah, that's not right. I swear it wasn't. I don't have enough money for a single loaf. That's what? Yeah, it was an awesome moment. I felt like I've been slapped in the face. That's what I play games for, right?
Prospex and his kind band together. That's a good enough reason.
We're doing worse than ever. The infection is spreading. What makes you say that? The disease is spreading quickly. The neighbouring district is almost entirely steeped in infection by now. Even though the powers that be have informed me that help is on the way, I doubt they're aware of the rate of spread. Let's not lose hope. What are you working on now? I intend to start studying the pathologic culture now, which is why I'd like to ask for your help. What kind of help can I offer you? I need equipment. I found out by chance that Isidore's laboratory was ransacked during the recent riots. I'd be grateful if you found the perpetrators and confiscated what they had looted. Those merchants are increasing their corruption points. Uh, yeah, I'm glad no one's charging rent in this game. So many corruption points going around. Yes, I've heard that. They're already being investigated. However, I would not call Barak's dwelling a laboratory. It was more of a workshop. There weren't many valuables there. Still, I will let you know when the stolen items are recovered. Thank you. Okay. So we need to see. So yeah, now we need to see Ruben. Okay. So this is the infected district. I'm still steering clear of it for now. Hopefully we don't get jumped by a plague cloud. I think they can sometimes spawn out here. And something I should have done as well is buy the map, but I guess it's not quite so useful on this day. It's probably be better to show people on day 4 what the map looks like in this game when you buy it. Where's it going? Ruben's place. Okay. Yeah, just a sort of gentle. What's the time? Gentle walk. Okay, so we're halfway through the day. We've yet to start the main quest, but we did complete a side quest, so that's good. So that'll be one. Bachelor can catch an early nap tonight. That'd be nice for him. He's probably been waiting for that. I can't remember if this is a difficult quest or not. I don't think it's too bad. My reputation's still fine, isn't it? Yeah. With every main quest you finish, I think your reputation increases. At least as the Bachelor, it does. Changeling's reputation ticks down slowly, so you're sort of constantly fighting to keep your reputation up, which I did find like a welcome change. You were trying to juggle yet another meter in a quite a decent way. I did like that addition personally. Okay, so we're going to go see Ruben, who is hiding out in the warehouse district, and conveniently he's adopted the bad grief method of letting people know where he is, which is dumping a bunch of trash in a bin and keeping it constantly alight. So you can see the bin on fire there. But you can see why the warehouse district is such a nasty district to be caught in. when there's the plague about or when there's looters, because there's so many blind spots. Okay, let's go in here. Here's Ruben, and for such a small area that you hardly ever go into, it's such a good song. All right. Dear colleague, by some happy coincidence, I managed to get my hands on a certain vessel that I believe I can recover the pathogen from, which means we are now all set to research the vaccine. But, odd as it may sound, I'd rather avoid tapping into that source I mentioned unless I absolutely have to. I'd rather examine the samples that can be produced from the dead tissue. Wait a moment, how can we possibly produce a vaccine with what scarce equipment we have? It won't be a vaccine per se, but rather a solution that might temporarily bolster the immune system. True, I don't have much in the way of equipment, but I have plenty of reagents, herbal tinctures, twirine infusions, by and large. The least we can expect is to keep ourselves reasonably safe until a better equipped team arrives. Where are we going to get the dead tissue from? I was going to ask you to bring a sample or two from one of the infected quarters. Be doubly careful, though, and make sure to get the dissection fully cleared with one of the rulers, else the risk would be twice as high as needs be. I'd go myself, but there are reasons that make it impossible for me to leave Simon's body unattended. There's some request. What is this additional danger you speak of? Dissection of dead bodies is something that the locals strongly disapprove of. For steppe people, the human body represents the world. Only a member of a special taglur, Burak to name one, is allowed to open it up. This is a caste-based privilege, you see. Does everyone in town share the same prejudice? No, of course not. But even those who are oblivious of the sacred meaning of the kin's rituals would still oppose unsanctioned dissection because it's traditionally inappropriate. A cultural taboo, if you will. An autopsy performed by anyone other than a true-born Menku is seen as blasphemy of the worst kind. Even incest is not as repulsive to them. Which doesn't stop them from being comfortable with all manner of slaughter. These people are outlaws, and not a single one of them is a steppe man. So what am I supposed to do? Do pay a visit to Governor Sabarov. I wouldn't go to Vlad if I were you. He's too resourceful and too inclined to drag you into his schemes. The Canes are also out of the question, as anything that leads Georgi to me would likely result in Simon's body being removed. And I still have a lot of work to do. Sounds reasonable. I'll see you soon. So I do like that you technically get the side quest to recover Simon's body earlier than you do to get the invitation from Ruben to do his quest, and basically it lined up pretty perfectly. So you sort of investigate that, Simon's body is missing, and then it sets up that, Ruben has basically made a fugitive of himself and stolen Simon's body to make this reagent, and made an enemy of the Canes in doing so. Which I do like. This game does have a good amount of pacing, good grasp on how to pace the story for the most part. The gameplay, as we've discussed, doesn't have quite the same proficiency in pacing as the second one does. Okay, so we'll go back and see Sabarov, and then we're going to head into an infected district for the first time. And infected districts, it's hard to say which game does them better, in my opinion. I mean, maybe it's just nostalgia, or sort of it was the first one I played, this one. So I quite like the mood of the plague districts in this one, but maybe other people have different thoughts. I think I don't like infected houses as much in this one, but wandering around infected districts, I kind of like. But I guess we'll see. Maybe replaying it this time on stream, maybe I'll reconsider that opinion. I'm not sure yet. Okay. Just carrying on to see Sabarov here in the rod. Just sort of this stately house. I don't have any notes on it in front of me, but I was quite interested in reading the Kickstarter article on how they translated things from the Russian. So I would probably next stream I'd like to bring that up. Poke my head back into the article, which I haven't read in like a year or two.
Is there really no way to cure the disease?
One advantage for this game is that infected houses are very easy to exploit for endless resources. And two, in what way? I might be thinking of a different thing than you. What exploit are you referring to? We're doing worse than ever. The infection is spreading. I need to work with dead bodies. I was told this work demands your sanction. Is that true? I regret to say that no one can help you here. Local superstition prohibits any violation of a body's integrity. Add a cult of the dead on top. If they see you dissecting a corpse, they might tear you to pieces. It has already happened once. It's essential for my work, I understand, but there's nothing I can do. Let us pretend this conversation never happened. You might want to turn to your new acquaintances. As far as I can judge, they're ready to do anything you ask. I'll do that then. The difficulty could be resolved by some rather sinister people. I'm talking about butchers. Butchers, rather obviously, have no qualms about cutting bodies. Tradition gives them a hereditary right to perform this sacred act. I've had the pleasure of meeting one, and he was a fugitive criminal. Of course, Olgimsky had locked them up after another one of their strikes. However, it is said on the eve of the blockade, a group of butchers did not make it back to the cemetery on time. Someone is hiding them. There is a house here on Earth whose dwellers know who it is. Take a chance. Thank you. Excellent advice. Okay, let's go see Aspity. It's been a while since we've gone to see her. She's still my favorite character. Once I figured out the angels, I like ones more. Thought it was scary with the clouds popping up. Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is more frightening in the first one. If you stockpile the things Artemy makes that reduce your tiredness, you spend all night downing them in coffee to get thousands of coins per night. Okay, I didn't actually know that. I don't think I'd used that strategy before. I was just making it by sheer pluck and grit in my first playthrough. But that is an interesting exploit. Sabarov eyeballs are serious. Yeah, the all of the characters' facial animations in this game are just so weird, right? Uh, they and it's advertised. I don't know if you've ever seen the back of like a pathologic case, but it's advertised like one of the big features is the facial animations. They're like, yeah, look at these facial animations. These are amazing. Big Vlad's as well. Also has this really funny expression where he sort of squints one eye and makes one really really big. He looks like an absolute lunatic. But it's interesting how times change, isn't it? Once these could have been, maybe not state of the art facial animations, but relatively impressive, and now terrifying. I've read the coffee exploit, but I'm so terrible I can't pull it off. Yeah, I mean, it's sounding like I'm going to have to try this because I haven't even heard of the coffee exploit. I'm just clueless apparently, but that's cool. Maybe it'll make it easier for me to go around and get more footage if I can stockpile just stuff on one day. Witcher 1 style faces. It's very it is very Witcher 1, isn't it? Same style of graphics. Haven't played that game in a while. That was a pretty decent game. I played Witcher 1 and I played Witcher 3. I never ended up finishing Witcher 2. I don't know why. I might have even got stuck on the that first tentacle boss, the big octopus or whatever. And I just stopped. I was like, nah. I died one too many times, and I put it down. I was like, I'll try it again tomorrow, and I never did. I never tried it again. But it does have that same, I guess, there's a certain look, Eastern European game look, especially from this time, and it sort of bleeds across both Witcher and Pathologic. That's something I hadn't thought about. That's a good point. Once you use them to avoid having to ever sleep, looting everything becomes very easy. I can imagine. Yeah, the graphics age, but the atmosphere is rich. Yeah, the atmosphere is so good in this game. It's one of my favorite games in terms of atmosphere and immersion. And I've talked about this previously on previous streams. And even at the start of the stream, we talked about magical realism for a while and how the game sort of encourages surrealism through the music and through the graphics to create this sort of just disjointed, anachronistic look. But through the sound design, also we create this very immersive space that we can live in and inhabit. And through that immersive space, we can get tricked by the game, or we can get frightened. And that's what survival horror games, as I've said many times before. I'm sure people are sick of hearing it. That's what they're all about. The atmosphere is so important. Please touch me. Do I have a fever? You are concealing runaway butchers in this very house, Aspity. Well, crucify me. What's this about? Running more errands for the old Gimpskis? No, this time I've come on my own accord. I need your help. Well, I gotta hear that. Why on earth would the wise serpent seek anyone's help? I need the tissue of a sand plague victim. You can only find dead victims in the infected houses. Since you appear to be alive, you have never entered a single one of them. You'll have 5 to 10 minutes if you do. Then the infection strikes, with the expected results. Perhaps you could find a single runaway that would agree to help. What would he want in return? Perhaps I could find a lot of runaways that would agree to help if only I asked them to, and the same me will ask you for a favor then. Will you do me one? Depends on what you're planning to ask. You're influential with Olgimsky. Use that influence. Tell him to stop persecuting the runaways. It's no longer a revenge situation, but he's still all too eager. Takes the guy quite some time to calm down, huh? Anyway, if he swears to leave alone the butchers that are now outside the termitory, I'll talk 3 runaways into risking their lives. It's not like they have anything to lose anyway. I'll try. Okay. And here we are, more politicking. We're gonna go through and do that. But sorry, just a second. I wanted to talk about these lovely, brilliant little dolls that also serve as some potent foreshadowing. But that's something we'll talk about a little bit later, I suppose. I've always been annoyed by this barrel. Why can't I squeeze past that barrel? I always wanted to see what's in those rooms, even if it was just 2 more empty rooms. What a mystery. Okay, so we want to go back to Vlad's house. So the easy way is just to go back the way we came. So, still fairly on top of things, although I might have to go for a nap. And I got some coffee. Speaking of coffee, I have some of that. Coffee, eating raw coffee beans downs your health in this game. Apparently, the bachelor allergic or something, I guess. He's just, you can just imagine he's now got a little bit of a sniffle and a cough, something like that. But that is important. Like, even if it doesn't make too much sense, the fact that you lose health, it is important to have that trade-off, that balance between the 2 items. Because if you're staying awake for longer, then naturally you need that. That's almost like free extra time. So you need the developers put something in to penalize that. And I really like that. Like, if you eat a lemon, I think that does that raise your hunger? It ruins his teeth. Yeah. Yeah. He takes some. Yeah, just needs some. If only this town had a dentist, then yeah, you could recover some health from that. Yeah. -5 teeth points. Yeah. I just like the idea that there's some game designer out there who watches this and is like, oh, I need more moral meters. I need so many moral meters in my game, just to piss these people off. Minus civilized points. Yeah, just Dankovsky shows up and smiles at people, and they just scream and run away. Yeah, I just been eating coffee. I just been eating raw coffee. It's fine. I'm fine. Hello.
Who could have thought? So an outbreak is upon us?
The Skinners. Yes, that was one nasty day. Wouldn't you agree? I'd like to offer you a bargain that has to do with your fugitives. Oh, come now. To my mind, there's nothing to discuss here. However, a good bargain always catches my attention. So, I want you to stop pursuing them. What do you want in return? What's in it for you? I have my own job to do and I need these people. As for now, sadly, I cannot disclose to you as to why. And you, what would you be willing to offer? I'm ready to hear your offer. Let me see. I know what I'm going to ask. It's a payment for my butchers. It's the unique resource you own, but I'll never get my hands on. What is it? Your influence with the Canes. I'll cease to pursue the butchers if Georgie ceases to pursue young Burak. He isn't guilty. He has an airtight alibi against all charges, which I am willing to confirm. Let them leave him alone. Agreed? If you're vouching for him, I'll inform the Canes as soon as I have a chance. Indeed, indeed. And I'd rather you convince Reuben that young Burak has nothing to do with Isidor's tragic death. The thick-headed Reuben is the last one who still needs convincing anyway. The boy might be labelled a patricide, as if he hasn't had enough. You do see Reuben from time to time, I know that. I'll pass your words to Reuben. I haven't finished yet. Apart from that, I wish they stopped torturing me about the termitory. I'm tired of repeating that it's clean. That's why it was closed in the first place. You know what? You've just suggested an excellent idea to me. How about this? You stop the persecution, and I'll kindly spare the Canes my opinion on what's inside the termitory. For goodness' sake, if you put it like this, yes, certainly, certainly. I was going to, as well. It's no matter now. Now that the Skinners is infected, just like the crude sprawl before it, you have my word as a merchant. The thing is, I know you as a man of honor. Damn it. I'm glad we have an agreement, Boost Vlad. The word of a merchant provides a reliable assurance. Very good. Okay. Now, I think we can just kid back now. Now, that should put your reputation down if done in public. Sounds like the kind of thing you see in a Pathologic 2 mod with 11 downloads. I don't even know what like I don't even know what Pathologic 2 mods there are. I've never bothered to mod the game. Are there any actually interesting ones? Other than ones that add thousands of reputation meters for every little action? I'd certainly be interested if there were any recommendations to see. I guess it's a tricky game to mod, isn't it, as well? Can't imagine much has been done for it. He's got nothing. Got all these water bottles and no one wants to drink any water. I'm just giving them away. I guess no one has any bandages that I want, to be fair. Probably because I have about the town's supply, right? Yeah, I got 12 bandages. That's all the bandages you're going to find in this town. One that makes Bad Grief's face smooth or something. What? Okay. Because why? Just to make him look more like a Tradigian or something? Add to the horror atmosphere? What's the time? 2. Almost 3 o'clock. Okay.
What?
Please touch me. Do I have a fever again? Big Vlad agrees. He swore from this point on a single runaway in the town will be killed on his orders. Proof? It's already done. The orders have been issued for Sabrov's patrolmen and the Gemsky's men. Sealed and delivered. Fine then. I'll see 3 butchers to the infected skinners. They'll be waiting for you there. If you manage to find a dead body, cut it and survive to see you, that is. Follow them in an hour. They might die before you reach them, so waste no time. Why do you want them to split? That enhances the chance of success, doesn't it? Also, these 3 butchers I fancy the least. I say. I strongly advise you to conduct reconnaissance before you go to the infected district. Prepare for the field trip well. Rumor has it the place leaves you less chances than a mincing machine would. The patrolmen guarding the infected houses have already consumed half the confiscated drugs. Thank you, Asperty. Okay. Save it. Pop to sleep for an hour. Okay. So yeah, exhaustion goes down every half an hour, I think, and hunger ticks up every half an hour. So that's something to keep a note of, if you were interested in that kind of the minutiae of game mechanics is something that interests me a lot, even if I'm not very good at it, at remembering those kinds of the very numbers and statistics, like frame data in fighting games. It's the sort of thing, if you want to become really good, you can study that kind of thing. But sadly, I don't have the patience or the expertise in fighting games to do that, even though I have a lot of fun playing fighting games. Today I learned she has a bed in her house. Yeah. Her house is so dark, to be fair, that it is really hard to see. Okay, so we're going to enter an infected district for the first time, and we're going to use the lens. And you can see here comes the screaming faces of death. Okay, we'll pop a blue, so you see that'll take our health down a bit, and then and raise our immunity, and that's going to be helpful to us. And you'll see that if infected people try and leave the district, like this poor chap here, the guards are going to kill him. Reuben is an absolute lad. He's 3 meters tall. You think everyone would be scared to death of him. Meanwhile, he hides out in a shanty. Yeah, he's pretty chill, really, isn't he? He's just hanging out. He's not trying to spook anyone, even though he could probably just snap your neck or with a glance by the looks of him. He's a nice guy. Reuben is an amazing character, but I wish I could go one day without getting yelled at by him in 2. Yeah, he is an amazing character. He's really well written, but he can sort of get on your nerves, can't he, in the second one. So we can trade the razors that we got for some meat here. And what we want to do is look around in the house for a bit. So what does it say? Yeah, so we got some new letters here, but we won't worry about that now. Okay. Now here's the test. They appear in specific houses, right? But goodness me if I know which houses anymore are the ones. You can see, yeah, there. Goodbye. Can we talk to him? We granted emergency powers. Here's you. Okay. So I'm gonna see if I can. This it looks terrible, and I've never had to use it before, but I'm gonna see if it's actually useful. So it, like, narrows your field of vision, but you're supposed to be able to see. Yeah, so you can see where plague clouds are from a distance. So instead of walking like right up to it and seeing it there, you can see it from a distance and like skirt around it, which is cool. Oh, yeah. So we don't have to go in the houses, do we? We just have to look at these guys here. The villain, to chop up a lad like that, he must know his trade well, eh? Dressing carcasses and the likes. Look over there, they're carrying the body with all the cuttings. Where to? To the cemetery. Where else? To prepare for burial. Why do you ask, sir? Why wasn't the body returned to the family? Ain't got no family, there's only Grace to give him solace now. I see. Okay, the body the butcher had cut open was taken to the cemetery. Okay. So we'll save that. I'm going to put my curtain on. Where my curtain? Okay. We just got to find our way out of here now. Oh, and that's, yeah, see, that's what you want to use here. And you just sort of skirt around them. I used it all the time in my bachelor run, but hated the durability bar. It's glass. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why the why it runs out like that. It's just a lens, you know. It's not, yeah, you're not using it like a blade or anything or as a weapon. You buy new ones from the clothing store, don't you? Like, I hardly ever used it. I didn't find it particularly useful. I was going by the seat of my pants. Basically, every bachelor playthrough I've done on this. So I don't use it very much. Can you see? You can't see durability there. Oh no, the durability. You can see the durability at the very bottom there. That little red bar. It does go down pretty quick. And they can get fixed, right, by the mechanics, the engineer guys, the factory workers. Okay, so now we're going to the cemetery. This is the first time we're going to the cemetery in this playthrough. So go see Grace. I guess, yeah, one thing I kind of... Have you played all of Pathologic 2? I still haven't, but I got it when it released. It looks great. Yeah, I would... Yes, I have played all of Pathologic 2. Several times, in fact. I managed to get all the achievements somehow. Humble brag. I would highly recommend finishing it. It is great. A lot of people recommend it over the first one. I do for some reasons, but not for all reasons. It is very much worth a play, though. Yeah, very different experience. Is exactly the way it's doing very different things. It's a bit more performative, I guess, as you've probably already seen. But you definitely should play it. And I would certainly hate to spoil anything about it for you, because there's more. It does different stuff story wise to the first one, and the gameplay loop, as well as we've discussed a bit earlier on the stream, is also a lot more effective. So yeah, it's a great, highly recommended experience. Agreed. Marvelous. Okay, here we are, burning the body. 3 guys. I wonder how this is gonna go. Hello. Anything I can help you with, good sir? Was this body brought from an infected district? I like this line. It's fine. I'm just picking the perfect spot for my grave. Preparing it for the burial. What's in it for you? No questions. Did Governor Saburov forget to inform you of my mandate? Governor Saburov? Governor Saburov is not my commanding officer. I'm a volunteer. Do you get that, Doctor? Don't need to spell it out for you. Perhaps we could strike a bargain. No. Okay. Fine then. Oh, I missed. I missed again. Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry, I'm going to reload. That's cheap, right? Sorry, but that's cheap. You can't actually win that fight. They knock you out and cart you back to Severov, which is highly unfair. Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that, actually. I'd forgotten that it wasn't an actual fight. You were just expected to get whooped, but the game doesn't actually tell you about that, so you sort of backpedal and fire bullets like I did, but you're just wasting your time. Are you out of your mind? Silence, know your place. I'm not paying him 10,000. See what Severov has to... Oh, wait, what? Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So one manner of death uh, led me to the game over screen, but the other one led me to Severov's house. What's the difference there? What's this body brought? No questions. Guess we could strike a bargain. And yeah, so it sort of fades to black, even if you don't get knocked out. But we want you to die. No, not like that. Yeah.
No, I can't stand it much longer.
Keep your voice down and listen carefully. I've told these people you're not the person who ordered the butchers to cut corpses. Thank you, I appreciate that. I had to concede that there's an unknown ripper on the loose. Twice a criminal, for daring to raise his knife against the inviolability of a body, and for defiling the sacred peace of the dead. I told them you weren't the real ripper, and we've started a manhunt for the real one. No, anything but this. How am I supposed to look in the eyes of those whom I promised non-interference? No names were named. I don't know who you're referring to, nor do I want to know. You hear me? I want nothing to do with cases about defiling the dead. My public line is whoever is caught dissecting a body will be summarily executed and made an example of. Be more careful from now. What am I to do? These patrolmen were keeping watch of the cemetery. Right now there is no one there. I will task them with blockading an infected district, and I will dispatch the next shift of guards to the cemetery in 10 minutes. Do you hear? 10 minutes after you leave. You have a 10-minute head start to do what you need to do. These patrolmen will be sent to their death simply in order to provide cover for my actions. That must not happen. As you wish, but remember, if you leave your work undone, someone else will have to do it and pay for their life with it. Alright, I've changed my mind. Hold back the duty detail for as long as you can. Alright, let's go. It's speedrun time. So now we go back to the cemetery. Yeah, that's a little weird. I don't actually think I died. You sort of have to survive that little encounter, but it fades to black naturally anyway. It's a bit of a disconnect there. I'd forgotten about that, but that is a bit of a janky section of the game in terms of gameplay fusing with story, because it's not you're not being knocked out. The game doesn't want you to die, but it also doesn't want you to succeed in that moment. So I'm not really sure what the point of that little bit is, other than to make you walk to the cemetery again, to be perfectly honest. Slightly disappointing that you can't kill the guards and resolve it that way. That's what's so tricky about making choice-based games as well, though, right? Like, you sort of end up with... you can only code in so many choices and so many paths. But that really does feel like a path that should have been coded in. That's a shame. Okay. So back there, we got a 10-minute head start. I don't know if that matters that much. I don't know if there's actually like in 10 minutes. I don't think there'll be people showing up. I'm not sure that's how this game works. But maybe there will. I don't know. It's obviously been too long because I'd completely forgotten that bit of the game did that. It's a bit of a shame. Hello. Yeah, 10 coins. Wash the plague out of my curtain, please. So worth it. Okay, and we're sort of again we're bleeding away from the town here and sort of entering into a larger, more open space, and the more natural sounding music is cool. Same deal with a JRPG. Fight a boss you aren't supposed to win against. If you use healing items or consumables, you just wasted them because there's a guaranteed scripted lose. Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things in games in general. I think I find that really obnoxious. Especially when the game, when you are using items like valuable items that you're supposed to be able to replace, right? So we'll grab that and we'll take that to Ruben. I don't play many JRPGs, but I've certainly heard that is a big problem with the genre as a whole. They love that trope, and it is a very negative. It's a very negative one. You should know if a boss, like if you're supposed to lose against a boss. Um, I thought, what did I what did I play semi recently that was good with that? Um, the new, well, it's not new anymore, is it? But Fallen Order. That's Star Wars, the Star Wars one, the new Star Wars one. Um, that first boss in that was very clear that you weren't supposed to beat them, as well as the very last boss as well. That they did a good job telegraphing that, oh, this is unwinnable. Um, that's the kind of thing that you need in those fights, because you don't want it to be like, oh, I won, and then to be beaten in a cutscene. Beaten in a cutscene is probably the worst version of that. Trails of Cold Steel. Does that happen a lot in that game? I don't think I've heard of that one. Um, but if so, then yeah, I'm not playing that then. That's a pet peeve in games for me as well. Okay, hopefully this blood doesn't go bad. I know there is a quest in this game that the organs can go badly. That can go bad. I think it might be in the Haraspexis campaign, or at least later, and maybe later in the Bachelors. Okay. I always forget that there's little fences in here that aren't marked on the map. I always have sort of a moment of sort of forgetfulness. I imagine so. Remember that? Yeah. What can I get from you? I'll get a bullet. Okay. So go talk to Ruben here. And we'll see what's up.
What is this disease?
The operation's been a success, I hope. That depends on the result. The microscope is at your service, colleague. May you be the first to make the discovery. I think we get a little cutscene here, don't we? Or sort of. You get this sort of blurry image. Ruben's music, yeah, it really is the best. Yeah. For an area, I said that before, for an area that you don't enter into that much in the game, it's really good. You sort of have to wonder if it was meant to be used elsewhere, and it was just sort of cut down to just being used in this one area. But at the very least, I'm glad they kept it in the game.
Yes.
So, what did you see there? Everything's dead. The dead tissue would not allow the microbial culture to survive. You might have tried to force the bacteria to reproduce. The problem is there are no bacteria left. The culture has perished. This is bad. Quite the opposite, colleague. This is outstanding. What we've just discovered allows us to suggest that the sand pest does not linger in dead bodies. As soon as it kills an infected person, it leaves. It needs warm blood rich in oxygen to survive. How do you think the bacterium kills, Bachelor? It causes a massive contamination of the blood. In doing so, it overloads the cardiac muscle. In all likelihood, the infected suffer a stroke. That is something we didn't know before. So, in order to acquire the potent living microbial culture, we will have to get our hands on a still beating heart? This is borderline absurd. You can start to research your vaccine, though. Don't you have that unique source of yours? I do. In any case, our work must no longer be delayed, not after the new hope today is bought. What does this mean? Firstly, it suggests that something as simple as house walls might provide a certain level of protection. Secondly, that the killer's life cycle is very short. Therefore, there is a natural restriction on how fast the disease can spread. As soon as the infection kills whoever carries it, it dies. This means the disease can be fought? Yes, there is hope. Although the enemy is invisible and ubiquitous, it is far from invulnerable. We have found at least one weakness. And that's the end of today's quest. Okay. Same with the polyhedron music, so good for such a limited area. Yeah, for some reason in my mind, I consider the polyhedron's music slightly different because it feels like a more plot central area. So it's good that it has a different track to it, like, and a very profound, brilliant track. It's one of my favorite tracks. I guess this is also a plot, it's plot central in a way, but you don't visit it as much. So it's a shame to just have it be limited here. But it does fit Ruben very well, doesn't it? The sort of gloomy mood of the area. Like if you look at the visual design here as well, the sort of narrow claustrophobic space. You've got these sort of medical walls here, sort of tent walls, and just this cramped working space. There's blood in this big bowl. There's gallons of blood in these here as well, and just posters of medical posters and that sort of thing. As I've said before, such a good a giant living in a shoebox. Yeah, I mean that. I love that. That's one way as well to look at it. That's great. A giant living in a shoebox. That should be how everyone refers to it. It is a great little space, though. It is a great little shoebox, I should say. Okay. Is there anything left to actually do today? It's got the Aspity elongated room too to make them feel more isolated. Yeah. Yep. Just the extra time it takes to walk through the building to get to them. It adds something to the atmosphere. I find it interesting. Those kinds of lengthy periods of isolation and silence are used to great effect in many a horror game. And Pathologic is indeed no exception. Okay. It is 6 o'clock. I got a bad reputation because I messed with those guards. But not a terrible one. People should still trade with me. I should check. I'll check in this. Did I already look in this butcher today? I can't remember. We'll have a look. We'll see. There's the face of evil again. 16.50 for fresh meat. I have a lot, but we'll get some more milk. We got a lot of bottles of milk. I think we'll just stand here, chug them in front of this guy. And then what else? We got bread, dried meat. I guess I should find some kids to trade with. I'll just walk around for a while and try and trade with some people. Because I don't think there's anything else to do, right? No, I've done the side quest and the main quest for today. So I knocked that on the head pretty well. So we didn't have to lose anyone to the plague on my end, which is good. The other two characters will indeed be losing people to the plague because they're not playing as good as I am. So that's why we need the extra smouters and that sort of thing, because we need to cure them at the end of the day. Okay, we just got to find the smallest, the youngest kids, because they're the ones with all of the drugs, which is such a normal thing to say. Normal game mechanic here. It's all fine. Okay. Needle. That's always good. Another needle. How many needles is that? 16 needles. Okay. And immunity. You notice immunity popped up really briefly there at the top right. Immunity decays in this game to 50% is the natural decaying point for immunity. So it can just sort of naturally rests. And if you're trying to keep it above that, you have to pop a lot of pills. And I'm not quite sure how, whether it has to, whether the plague has to outweigh your immunity meter or not, or whether the immunity meter gives you like a higher chance of not being infected, or that sort of thing. I haven't actually tested that in any thorough way. But I always found the immunity meters worked a bit more naturally in the second one. But then again, I might just not have engaged with the immunity mechanic quite as much in this one. I just popped a pill before I entered any infected district and just sort of hoped that would protect me. I wasn't constantly shoveling alpha pills down my throat or anything like that. Okay. Nope. Chance percentage. Yeah. So it's like the higher immunity you have, right, the lower chance you have of being infected. But I think if you take the vaccine, that boosts you up to 100 for 12 hours, which basically protects you from the plague for that 12 hours, provided you're also probably popping a pill every now and then, because your immunity gets taken down a little bit when you get hit by the plague. So if you have 100 and you get hit, right, gives you a chance to prevent it fully. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad we've got that sorted, because I was never 100% sure how that worked. So that's cool. Okay. Nothing in those bins. I got caught on that little bit again. Hello. You're the one I'm looking for. Schmouter. No schmouter. Useless. Here's another one. Ash the Smarters, but it seems like she appears towards the beginning of the game when you don't have much to trade. She's rare in the following days. Yeah. That's who I've been looking for. But I agree with you that she does seem to become rarer in the following days, and I'm sure the developers are very aware of that because the kids come off the streets basically at night, and they become less prominent as more districts get infected too. Calls child useless, -2 purity. Well, look, I'm sorry about that, but the kids just not off to a good start in the old drug dealing business. It's to step up her game. So we'll just do the usual theatre bottle run again. See if there's any junk in these bins. Nope. I'd be interested to see what kind of like how often it's checking what was I going to say? Checking to see whether it should restock a bin. I'm wondering if it's like every hour there's a percentage chance or something like that to restock, because some of those I've already searched and they had bottles in them again. It's interesting, and it's the best. I didn't see many people check behind the theater, to be honest. When I've watched a few people play this, it's always worth checking that. Okay. Just keep meandering around. There's another one. Hopefully, maybe I've already spoken to her. Hello. Uncle Bachelor? No, you were the one I spoke to before, weren't you? Sorry about the whole useless thing. Alright. What's my exhaustion? Getting kind of tired. It would be nice. It'd be nice to find one schmouter today, but I'm running out of time. I think kids keep spawning as long as you don't go inside. Maybe. Or at least they spawn for a bit longer. Oh, +5 purity, sweet. I wonder what decisions I'm going to be able to make with my +5 purity. Who knows what kind of nice, fancy cloaks I'll be able to buy from the good vendor instead of the bad vendor. Whatever it is that happens in Fable. Yeah, max purity run save. Whew. Yeah, that was a close one, yeah. Yeah, bandages. Have some water. I really got a system going with these bandages. There's 10 water bottles fill up there. Keep on. Fill that one as well. How many is that? Too many. 19. You said one bad thing. Clearly you're unworthy. No, my secret ending. I need my secret ending. I need the validation from the developers. You don't understand. Got to restart the whole game. Yeah, so what we can do with this guy is you can... So I'm sick. I'm in agony. My head seems to be filled with lead. My insides burn. Could you please donate a couple coins for me to cure myself and my family? I'll repay you. I'll spread the word of your untold magnanimity. And you can say take it, and you can sort of spare some money, and that should boost your reputation just a little bit. Play hide and seek with the kids, or you get the bad ending. Yeah, that makes sense to me. No secret achievement. Yeah, it's so unfair. You do one bad thing, and the developers say, "No, that's it for you. You miss one session of hide and seek with the children." And then from then on, they're just like, nah, we hate you. We're never going to play that again. The orange-haired pigtail girl has the same expression as my wife when I come home from the pub on Friday after work. Doesn't realize I have bandages to offload. Yeah. Look, I've been carrying around these water bottles for so long, okay? You don't understand how many water bottles I've had to carry around. But look at all the bandages I brought home. I've been working hard. Look. Yeah, you called her a jerk. People must now die. Yeah. Hello. Nope. It's a shame that that's how some games operate, really, isn't it? Maybe not quite that extreme, but you do sort of get that kind of moral shock of like, yeah, you did one thing, and now a character is going to respond in an overly dramatic or aggressive way. One thing I could do, actually, I'll see if I know Haruspex can do it. I'm pretty sure Bachelor can do it as well. I think it's this house over here. We'll just pop in this house and see, and then I guess we'll finish. Yeah, we'll finish day 3. I think it's this one. Yeah, it is. Okay. So we'll just go through the house. Do the usual thing of if the door is unlocked, they obviously want you to take their stuff. Not that there's anything here to take. Literally Fallout 3. Bought my reputation back from blowing up the town by glowing up clean water. Yeah, that's pretty dumb, right? Like as long as you have enough water bottles, clean water bottles, the game world forgives you for nuking an entire population into the dirt. Yeah, that's a particularly bad example, isn't it? Quite a shocking one. Where is the guy? I think he's in that room. He doesn't really have anything. Normally he's got better stuff than this. Oh, he's not even in here. Okay. Maybe he only spawns for Artemy, but you can always enter the house. So this house is meant to be inhabited by the Hunchback, who is Var the Hunchback, but yeah, he doesn't seem to have spawned in. That's okay. Yeah. Well, we got some stuff out of that anyway. The Hunchback might not appear this early. In the Bachelor's campaign, I think that's probably true. But in Haruspex's campaign, I know that you can go and see him on the first day, right? I know he spawns in on the first day. But yes, in the Bachelor's one, he might not technically exist. You only get to see him in the Bachelor's one early on if you go to the graveyard and do Anna Angel's side quest, which I didn't do this run through. So we got some antibiotics here. Tourniquet, yeah, see, too expensive. Grab an alpha tablet there, a couple of alpha tablets. Got a lot of money. So I'll pop into bed, I suppose, go to sleep. Yes, still got about another half an hour of stream to go comfortably, so that's good. Yeah, it's been good. Bet you're right. I just remember after talking to him, the guys that throw Molotovs appear shortly. Yeah. I think probably when he does spawn in the Bachelor's campaign, that triggers the rioters to spawn because he's the direct. He's like the instigator of the rioters, isn't he? So probably him spawning in is representative of that. Do I need to drop anything off in here? Not really. Pretty comfortable with everything I have. Okay. I'll take some of this though. Yeah, the Molotov guys are annoying, aren't they? Which is a shame. The enemies in this game are so varied because you can so easily deal with the knife robbers once you know just to dodge their first attack. But man, I barely thought about them, but there's the rats in this game, isn't there? There's the rats in this one, and the rats they're kind of infamous. Okay, so what are we on? We're on day 4. All right, we keep on rolling. We'll save it though, just in case. Now that I've said that, we get caught off guard by this guy over here. Watch him throw that directly into the fence. Nice try. Yeah, like these guys are relatively easy to deal with now. I say as I miss 5 shots. There we go. Cool. Okay. So we'll mosey on over to the theater and watch that performance. Okay. Going all pretty smoothly so far. And then we'll also stop off in the after we go to the theater. We'll do the old grocery run. See if we can see what the prices are like today. But I can't remember exactly how they fluctuate beyond day 3, because I know day 1 is super cheap and you want to buy as much as you can then. Day 2 super expensive, you don't want to really buy anything then. And day 3 is a little better. But I can't remember if day 4 is a little better, the same, or worse. I can't actually remember. But we'll soon find out, obviously. I have your water? Nope. You don't have my bandages. Okay. Keep going. Quite like the austere theatre design in this game is cool. Stop off and see if they have any needles. It's a healthy habit. 1 needle. Prices have dropped again, haven't they? It's a bit cheaper. And you can see there's some new things coming out, but they're expensive. They are helpful, but they're expensive, so this is much better than the curtain, obviously. We've got some disposable gloves. Cannot be re-sterilized. Bachelor already has some protective gloves, so we don't yet need to buy them. What I should do as well is I should stop off by young Vlad too, and buy the map off of him, so we can sort of have a look at how the map is presented in this game, because it is worth having a little look at. Examination of, but yep, I'll let the theater production play. Sure, Mark's very excited to show us what he's got.
It stays away from dead bodies, disappearing from corpses without a trace. It's been established that you can outweight it if you're careful and discreet. The glass will keep the best, as it's supposed to.
What does it mean?
It means we have a fighting chance. The infectious agent only sticks to living matter and is repelled by dead surfaces. Those who remain indoors are more likely to survive. Scurrying and making a fuss means death. All in all, we can fight.
You self-serving jerk. You've got your own agenda, haven't you? You're always up for a fight. You just need an adversary. What about the people?
Hush, don't you get in his way. He seems to have a plan.
It's all wrong. It's not good at all.
It's unflattering, isn't it? The bowl cut. And the fact that he's sort of looking around gawking, like, where are these voices coming from? Oh, look, and there, yep, there's Mark in his purple suit. You don't get to see that in the game. Does Mark have anything to say to us today? Are you here on business? No, just looking around. Okay. You're fine then. I think Mark as well is the only bound who can't get infected. I might be wrong about that, but I don't think he can. Which is interesting. Okay. Yes, let's go to the grocery stores. Let's do the grocery run for Ava. See if we can cart her back some stale bread or something. One thing I should do before the stream ends as well, I need to run over and actually test the lantern on the plague clouds. I just realized I didn't do that. But the Stalker games. Stalker, yes. Stalker's funny for me. I liked what I played. I just found it hard to keep playing. It's something that I've tried several times to get into. Or they're slightly more expensive today, the prices. But I haven't yet succeeded. I've got the furthest in the first one, Shadow of Chernobyl. But I haven't. Yes, I haven't. I didn't get too far in the other ones, which I can't remember if they were prequels or sequels. The anomaly mod for the last one is fantastic as well. Yeah, it's definitely a game I need to play. I've had a lot of fun with what I've played. It's just they're the kinds of games that are currently sitting on my poor old backlog. Lots of jank that almost require the fan-made patches. Maybe that's what has sort of killed the momentum for me a little bit. Um, I did find them quite aggressively hard. I'm not, especially in the later game, which is sort of where I ran into some trouble. But maybe I was just missing out on some basic sort of tips and tricks that I should have looked up. I'm not sure. I'm certainly, I must check them out again. Actually, I'd sort of just forgotten them, just sitting on the pile there. But no, I'm glad for the recommendation. They come from the same kind of era too, don't they? Yeah, just jarring. Yeah, yeah. I did find the difficulty jarring. Yeah, what's my knife at? 0%. Oh yeah, scalpel time. And killing robbers raises your reputation too, doesn't it? That'll be why I've got so much reputation again. Ow. Young Vlad, that's where I'm going. Young Vlad. Okay. Because we want to buy the map off of him. Because unlike in Pathologic 2, I found this a really good decision in Pathologic 2. You don't have to buy the map off anyone. You can, I think. You can buy a map off someone, can't you? But you also fill in the map yourself, which is why I'm probably forgetting that you could buy a map off anyone in Pathologic 2, because I never did, because you just like walk around and chart it yourself is far more effective, because I found money a lot tighter in Pathologic 2, unless you use your coffee exploit. Sticky. Map in 2 gives you updated information on infected districts without having to visit them. Do you not have to look at them? The ones you buy, I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. But I never found it worthwhile to buy them. I was just like, well, let's just walk there and mark it ourselves. I never found that useful. Is it off Sticky that you buy them? Yeah. Something about them that is like this game. You can trade up and sell off stuff to become more stout. But like in this game, the game kind of expects that of you. I found myself in a rough spot more than once. Yeah. It is all about balance. Balancing mechanics is much easier in this one though. So you sort of, and it is buying the map as well as the only way to color in the map in this one too. And coloring in the map is actually really helpful in this one, because it also reveals the shape of districts and what you can expect on later days. So we'll talk to Vlad. I'll just let his animation finish here.
There's this thing that needs to be done.
And they say you saw some significant success yesterday, so random antibiotics can really help against the sand fever. Everyone's got a different name for it: sand pest, sand plague, sand fever. I quite like that. So it adds a realistic touch to it that everyone's sort of got their own names for it. Never bought the maps in either game. I found too many clouds and angels outside the zones to trust them. That's fair. I think they do have a slightly wider radius, don't they, spawn-wise, than the maps let on. But they're still relatively contained to around the district, which I always found helpful, personally, in both games. But I never bought them in the second one because the maps are marked by the character themselves, which I wish they did in the first one. But I understand, not possible, I suppose. Well, they just didn't think of it. They thought that having to buy the map would add more pressure, which I guess it does. But there's just less pressure overall in this game, I found. Maybe it's just because I've played it so many times, but I don't recall ever being like, oh, maybe once. There might have been one day where I was like, I can't afford the map. I'm just going to have to wing it. But otherwise, I think I was fine. They say you saw some significant success yesterday. How is the distribution of drugs going? Why is there still no medicine? The drugs we confiscated 2 days ago turned out to be outdated. Moreover, many are expired and now harmful. Oh, that's great. Many are probably useless. We'll check every drug today. Those that actually prove effective will be put into distribution immediately. How will the test be conducted? Is the combat in Pathologic 2 pretty interesting? Combat, we talked about this briefly as well earlier in this stream. The combat in the first game is really easy to exploit. The AI is not particularly good, and they're fighting on, I guess, more of an even level to you. And there's no stamina bar in the first one. Pathologic 2 has a stamina bar, so you can't like just sort of flurry. Um, it's different. The flow is different, and so combat isn't as easy to win in the second one, which I like. You can't abuse it as much, which makes the game overall harder, in my opinion. So the combat mechanics are more refined because you can block. You've got like hotkeys for your different weapons and that sort of thing. So it is, yeah, it is vastly improved. I think you'd probably, it's much more enjoyable than the combat in this game. Once you get used to the combat in this game, basically no enemy except the stupid Molotov guys and the rats. The rats are annoying, but the Molotov guys are really annoying. Yes, yeah, that's a good point as well. Combat enemies can grab and throw you if you try running away. So you can sort of, you can feel trapped. Like the enemies can gang up on you, and like if you try and get away, they can grab you by the shoulder, whirl you around, and stab you with their knife or something. It gives the game a bit more of a gritty street brawl feel, which is really what it needed. The combat in this game is feels ends up feeling a bit cartoonish and a bit bare bones. And I love how the map closes when you press a movement key in 2. I get lost constantly. Yes, that is great. It's such a simple, like, these are little game mechanic things I love hearing about as well and talking about, because it's the smoothness of play that's really important, even in a game that's meant to make you feel stressed. And so the ability for you to flick up the map and then be like, okay, that's where I need to go, and then just start moving immediately. I agree. I also really like that. Um, it, I just realized it got into maybe a subconscious point. Does it do it in this game as well? I can't even remember. I've been doing it this whole time, but I have to test. It might just be a subconscious thing. Some people with a death wish. Those are desperate people on the verge of a nervous breakdown. So I've tasked several young ladies whom you probably know with supervising the tests. Ava Yan, Yulia Leosheva, Anna Angel, and Lara Ravel. They'll report the results tonight. Why haven't you told me anything? You were very busy yesterday, and we spent the whole day inspecting and writing down the requisition stockpiles. Today, as you can see, I'm informing you of my plans. Don't worry, Bachelor, this is the best possible course of action, or do you have a better one? I do. I'll take the drugs from the young ladies and test them myself. Hopefully you can trust my words just as well. Look at how snooty he looks there. The young ladies offered their help voluntarily, with the task I believe to be the least dangerous. I doubt they prefer to test the drugs themselves instead of sending death seekers into infected districts. If they will, woe is us then. Maybe there's still time to change their minds. But Bachelor, if they do conduct the tests on themselves, we can at least be certain of their failure or success. How so? Our kind volunteers are prone to foul play. I've heard reports of the kinds of talk happening between them. Honestly, if they vanish, I'll be convinced they just made off with the pills. You're not an easy man to read, Master Vlad. Don't worry, I'll handle it all myself. Okay, so now we have to pick up medicine to stop the three, Lara, Yulia, and Anna, from potentially endangering themselves.
Did you hear that?
I need the infected districts map. The price remains the same, 1,000. Here you go. Okay. Yes, it's the same. But it's so good that it's become an unconscious reflex. So yeah, you just hit W and the map disappears. That is such an important. It's such a cool little addition. And you can see, yeah, so the darker districts is the abandoned ones, so the looters have taken that over. The red ones are the infected ones, obviously, and the regular ones, obviously just regular. But getting to this district, obviously, isn't good today because you have to pass through either a looter district, or going the long way around, or you have to pass through either one of these. And you sort of have to start weighing up the best routes. You have to be a bit more strategic now because you can lose health and other resources carelessly making your way through those. Okay. Vlad Jr. looks a bit like Will Ferrell. I had not considered that before. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Let's cast a Pathologic movie. We'll see. We'll see how well that goes. Pathologic is just one of those things I don't think would work in any other medium. It's perfectly suited for the game medium, or if it might still work, but it wouldn't work as well. It was made to be a game. Perhaps that's why no games really transfer well to films in general anyway. The filmmakers, Jason Statham, will make a good bad grief. I'd love to see that, honestly. Make it happen. Make it happen. Just collecting some bottles here. No, that's not a rubber. I thought for a second that was a rubber. Bandages. Good. I don't have enough yet. That's a robber. What's he doing? He's just standing there. That guy doesn't know what's about to hit him. Hello. Look out. Look at how satisfying this is. Could kind of simulate what it's like playing it if the storyteller just spoke the normal story in lines and then punched the audience in the face. Yeah, I mean, Pathologic would make a good play, wouldn't it? But it has to be. There has to be some amount of audience interaction, surely, for it to maintain some level of potency. Punching the audience in the face, though, that's a great idea. Doesn't Mark suggest something similar in the? I swear, Mark suggests something similar in Pathologic too. Says something like that to Artemis, like, "Oh yeah, I'm just here to beat you up, basically, show you a bad time." Yeah, there's just tossing bottles everywhere. Yeah, pick that up. Pick that up. Now I've given some of you bandages. You you must trade. My scalpel's become useless again. Yeah, you just want to keep building up that big money pool. Makes everything very easy later on. And you see, yeah, the town. I'm not exactly sure how many people the town has in it, but surely at this point you'd stop walking around at night because there's like 50 murders a night. It's getting to be a problem. Face me. Yeah. Please bring your children to the play. We're going to need them to play a very specific part, the role of drug dealer. Please bring your children. In fact, yes, we'd really love if your children were here to trade dangerous chemical mixtures to the adults. Some more junk. So you can see at this point, fairly comfortable, sitting fairly comfortably in terms of resources. It have to take something relatively large to sort of shake me off my pedestal at the moment. There's a couple of side quests later on that try and do that, but I don't. The one I'm thinking of isn't particularly effective. Hello. Do you have any bread? No. I'll take some smoked meat, I suppose. Cool. That'll deal with my hunger for a while. I think, yeah, we'll fight our way through the infected district and get to Yulia's house, I think, and then we'll finish the stream up there. Yep. No, it's been good. I've really enjoyed the conversation going on. I really appreciate that. So yeah, thanks, guys. It's been great. It's so good to have people to bounce off. It is immersion breaking, but I love how nobody sleeps ever in this town. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's no children, so I guess all the children are getting a good night's sleep somewhere, but all the adults are just like, nah, we're just gonna walk. Hello, goodbye. Just gonna walk through the streets aimlessly and get murdered. No one has any sense in this town. If there's one thing you learn from Pathologic, it's that no one has any sense in this town. Okay.
A stranger brought me a peculiar vial today.
How well are you doing on this playthrough compared to your first playthrough? Yeah, oh, Wimple to Duck. Thanks for the follow. That means a lot. That's really lovely. Thank you. How well are you doing on this playthrough compared to your first playthrough? Much better. Yeah, my first playthrough was terrible. Yes. Have fun at work. Hope to see you here next time. That'd be great. Yeah, my first playthrough was absolutely awful. At this point, I was probably like dying in about 5 different ways. In fact, I think I even stopped my my first playthrough because it was going so poorly. I started off on the wrong foot because it's that second day that really screws you if you don't know what's coming. Because I didn't stock up on stuff on the first day, uh, it makes the rest of the game really, really hard. Um, and that's a big hurdle to overcome if you miss that. And I did miss that the first time, obviously, because you don't know what's coming. And the second time, this is my second playthrough. I still wasn't fully prepared, but I was a bit more prepared, and so was still not having the best time. But a few days after this, I managed to figure out that I should be going out into the streets and killing robbers all the time, and that sort of thing. Yeah. All right. I'm so glad nothing bad happened to you yesterday. Tell me, are you really planning to test antibiotics? No, I'm not. Vlad the Younger claims he asked you to test some dubious remedies. I wanted to try the antibiotics, but I wasn't allowed to. I'll have to work with painkillers. Vlad the Younger says they're closer to my line of trade anyway. If I'm to host the House of the Living, I'll have to handle them often. They ease pain, but also make you drowsy and apathetic. Just like everyone in this town, seemingly. How exactly are you planning to test them anyway? I know how they work. All I need to do is find a man whose line of work naturally leads to being wounded frequently. On that note, actually, sorry to interrupt you, Lara. On that note, in terms of difficulty, this Harrispex's playthrough is meant to be way more difficult than the Bachelor's one. But after playing the Bachelor's one, I probably found it easier than I was supposed to. But that playthrough in the first game throws some really good curveballs at you towards the end that do bring it back around to being probably the hardest the game actually gets. But other than that, beyond my first 2 playthroughs, I don't recall struggling like a huge amount. I remember Clara's campaign was super easy because she has this overpowered attack, like ranged attack that she can use for free, and that like no robber can stand up to that. You don't even get stabbed once. You can just sort of backpedal the whole way around the town and kill them like that. So that makes it a bit too easy. I'm wondering whether I should play Clara's campaign. I don't know if I'd play Harrispex's campaign. I think I'd rather just play Pathologic too, but maybe I should play Clara's campaign. Who knows? I don't know. All I need to do is find a man whose line of work naturally leads to being wounded frequently. I was planning to distribute the drugs among the patrolmen. Give them to you if you wish. If you have any success testing each of the 3 types, then that means they're still fine. Then the Olgimskis will begin giving them out to the population. Fine. You know what? Something else I want to ask of you. Please put a stop to Yulia's efforts and support Anna. Yulia has her own motives, yet I have a terrible suspicion she may have given up to despair. And poor Anna doesn't deserve this either. Absolutely positive she isn't planning to offer the medicine assigned to her to the test subject. She's too compassionate for that, but she won't go anywhere herself either. What's wrong with Anna? She is certain the Olgimskis are only doing this to get to her and to have her dead. She might not be all that wrong. Oh, really? I don't think it's Big Vlad, yet the Olgimskis are definitely a threat to her. There isn't a shade of doubt in anyone's mind that one of them will become the death of her. Okay, I see. Now please hand over the painkillers. They'll be of use to me. Cool. I didn't drop any of those, did I? No. Sweet. Okay. I took a photo after my day 1 Harrispex one when I had 1% health. Sent it to my friend and said I felt pretty good about my odds, yeah. Um, RSpec's RSpec's run in this one is a funny one, because it is definitely meant to be the hardest one, by quite some margin, I think. And yeah, it's hard at the start and it's hard at the end, but the middle section gives you enough time to get a bit more comfortable, I think, personally. Barter, you have nothing. Okay. There's a rat. There's my worst enemy. They're so hard to hit. The bane of everyone who's played this game that I know. Just basically everyone I introduced to it. Hates those things. Such a terrible little hitbox. They're not worth wasting bullets on either. Okay. So we'll talk to Yulia and then we'll finish up here. I don't think that a positive outcome falls within the range of reasonable possibility. There's no point whatsoever in trying to attain it. All we can do now is wait and hope that, by some miraculous coincidence, the epidemic passes by. Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. Do tell me how exactly you're planning to test these antibiotics. Oh, so you know it already. I need to contract the disease first, then try to cure it myself. I have 3 kinds of pills, you see. Conceivably, any one of the medicines may curb the sickness at a certain stage of its development. An exciting experiment if I ever saw one. Not quite unlike the feats of power they had in times long forgotten. A trial of fate. Yulia, this is nonsense. As far as I know, a disease of this sort can't possibly be cured by this kind of antibiotics. You're not wrong here. Still, I'd rather go with my own assumptions. Not unlike yourself, I base my speculations on rigorous research, even though it may not look veritable enough to you. You see, in order to calculate the probability of either outcome, I had to extrapolate the 2 mathematical functions, which you may find to be somewhat esoteric. So what does the process you have in mind look like? Nothing revolutionary, I assure you. The experiment is fundamentally getting myself infected and using the 3 medicinal formulas one after the other. Besides, the old Gimsky girl provided me with a schmouder that I am use if neither of the pills has effect. Absolutely precious, these schmouters. Extremely detrimental for your liver, but also certain to remove the infection. Everything will work out just fine, I hope. I have a better proposal. You see, I would be very interested to study these schmouters myself. I think I'm better equipped to do it. Give the schmouter to me and I will handle the testing. Pardon me, but I have my own prospects regarding the schmouter. What medicine were you given? Here, it is called ferromycinium. The most powerful medicament they had in stock, as well as the most hazardous, known to purge the bacteria by means of destroying all manner of microflora, harmful and otherwise. If it proves to be of use, the Gimsky family will distribute it throughout the town. Is that all? 2 more medicaments, neomycinium and monomycinium. Both are much weaker than the first, but each one has useful characteristics of its own. I wouldn't know what kind of characteristics these are. Pharmaceutics is not my field of study. That's enough. I'll do this myself. Always amusing hearing about or seeing people's first playthroughs of games. No, it's never quite the same after the first time, is it? Something about, amazing to experience that first run again. For me, the Bachelor, the first day of the Bachelor, at least at the very least, starting in the first house, it does give me that little rush of like, oh, this is all. It brings back all of those memories, which is really cool. But yeah, there's nothing quite like that first painful run. Yeah, something about reliving your own first playthroughs for other people's playthroughs. Agreed. Bioshock is always the game that comes to mind when I think of reliving that first run experience. Yeah, Bioshock is a very good game, and it's because of that central plot point that's revealed. Revisiting the game is a different kind of experience, but not the same one. A valuable replay, all the same, but yeah, not the same one. But no, that's me for today. I think that's been my longest stream yet. But that was a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and again, thanks a lot for participating so readily in the conversation. It's great. It's so good to have people talking to bounce off of, and also to crack jokes about purity levels and whatnot. But no, stay safe, everyone, and I hope to see you next time, either for my next Silent Hill 3 stream or my next Pathologic stream, which will be at the same time next week. Thank you all. Have a good one.